Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? We're here. Did you like that new intro? The Great Canadian Relay. You got to see every province and every territory, a little bit of a clip, took us across. And that's the same order we're going to be doing as we're coming across as well. So thank you to Alif who put that together for us nice and quick. And we even have an outro for it. So there you go. We now have like a full official little setup for this show. And it's going to stand on its own. First question we got, John. How you doing, bud? Are you on Twitter, John? Because we keep our schedule on Twitter. You'll be able to see it there. And it's also in the description on YouTube on who the lineup is. Bridget Belton's tomorrow. So tomorrow I have Bridget as a full interview. She'll be doing it from her truck. It's the interview with A Trucker's Life with Bridget Belton. So you'll get the full interview with her tomorrow there, John. On Wednesdays every week, we do the Cross Canada stuff. And then it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday that we do interviews, sometimes Saturday. So check back on tomorrow for that one there, John. And then Padge is mentioning that she doesn't know what the exact lineup is. Again, that's on Twitter, and it's in the description. But I'll go ahead and give it to you right now. In the Maritimes, we're going to have Morgan May, so the Queen of Diagolon herself. She'll be here teaching us about what's going on in the Maritimes. And joining her will be Chet. I think Chet is what we'll call him. That's what he's got us in the lobby here, and he'll be providing some news about the Nova Scotia and the hospital and some stuff that happened there. So wait for that. And then in Quebec, we're gonna have Gov Corrupt. He's a familiar face. We see him each time, so we'll be having him back. And then Big Puff Podcast with Lex. Lex is ready to go. We'll be seeing him as well. Over in Ontario, we have the best. Donald Best. He's going to be joining us and chatting a bit about what's going on in Ontario. We're working on a big claim and case together. But yeah, he'll give us an update of Ontario this time. And then we have a friend from our Twitter space, Fun Acceptable Views, Ash Laughs 79. So if you know her or him or her, I'm not even sure. I guess we'll meet them both, won't we? I know there's going to be him and her, but I don't know who's got the keyboard. We'll meet them today from Ontario. Over in Manitoba, we're not going to be left without an appearance today. We actually have Winnipeg Alt Media showing up. Oh, getting a little windy here. Excuse me, folks. Winnipeg Alt Media is going to show up, and we also have Zahaya Music coming back, and he's going to drop a new album or a new track. So he's going to actually do an exclusive play on our show. So thank you very much for that, Zahaya. Now, over in Saskatchewan, we're going to have the Zach Smith podcast again. They're coming back. He's going to be a staple. He keeps coming back, along with Mark Friesen in Saskatchewan as well. So the Grizzly Patriot, we'll see what he's up to. Spoke to him earlier today. We're working on something big. Maybe he's ready to talk about it. In Alberta, we're going to have Granny herself. So Granny McKay is going to be here from the Coots 4 morning show. We're going to be seeing her, and she's got some stuff to talk about. And I'll also be pitch hitting a bit. So I'll be giving you some of the news as well. It won't be just a host this time. I'll actually have some news for you in Alberta. If we're in British Columbia, we're crossing all fingers because Chris Erickson's going to be joining us unless his meeting runs late. He's already forewarned me. It should be clear, but his commitments come first. But we also have Doug Bedd, B-E-D-D, Bed. First time meeting him, and he's with the PFC party, and he's out in BC, so we thought we'd be able to get a couple of people from BC on this time. So we'll meet Doug, and then we'll head up to the Northern Territories where we're going to have Dan, Yukon Dan again, and this time we'll see Melissa as well, Melissa Lachi. So we'll see her as well. So there you go, a full plate. We got all the regions covered and coast to coast covered this time. So I'm pleased about that. There's only a couple that may or may not make it, and it might be BC. Something's in the water out there. It makes it hard for them to show up and commit, but that's all good. So while we're waiting for Morgan to show up, we're just going to go through the chat quickly here. So, hello, Doings. Welcome, buddy. You're at the right place. You're going to see Morgan. And I believe Chet, too, and Zach. So you got some bags around here. Hey, Tammy. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for showing up. And then Azario. Thanks, buddy, for showing up as well. And Padge has got some love for Tammy and Azario. John, I like the intro with all the flags. I do not do social media. That's too bad, John. You're missing a lot of good stuff on Twitter. A lot of good stuff. Even if you just come as Johnny Anonymous or something, you're missing a lot of good stuff. A lot. There's quite a bit on Twitter for us right now. Someone once told me I'm too much like Trump and I should stay away from Twitter. Well, that person should STF you because your voice belongs out there, John. Even if you don't Put your name. Just come and join and show some support. Every like and retweet helps. But Twitter is where all the information is right now. Okay, John. So if you show up there, you'll catch up quick. Motown. Hi, everyone. So happy to be joining you all with this beautiful Wednesday. My coffee mug is topped up again. That's awesome, Motown. That's awesome, Motown. Now, Chet, I don't know if you have Morgan's text. If you can, just give her a little poke, see where she's at, because we like to get running. There we go. Hey, Padge. Hi there, Motown. Thanks, Chet. Hey, Sentry. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're in the right spot, bud. Rosario's talking to Padge. We're getting some love going. And Clay, evening, buddy. There's no coffee right now, but I'll have a water. So I'll have a little water with you there, man. Okay, cool. I see Lex in the lobby. And Morgan anytime. And actually, what we'll do, Chad, if you give me a thumbs up, I'll bring you in and we'll get started with you as well. Yep. All right. There we go. We'll do that.
Hey, buddy.
All right. Hey, bud.
I just I sent Morgan a message, so
yep.
So
I
just got a message from her like a minute ago anyway. So
yeah. So you're in Nova Scotia, and here, John, look, we got flags for the entire show. So you'll see that there's a flag now in the corner as we do this. So we're in Nova Scotia. Well, nice to meet you, Chad. Why don't you go ahead and say hello to everybody, and then we'll get into the breaking news of Nova Scotia.
Sure. For those who don't know me, many may know me at this point. My name is Chet Chisholm. I'm a paramedic here in Nova Scotia. I've been a paramedic for 12 years. I unfortunately am one of the many who was both injured and then terminated due to mandates, due to only taking one shot.
You did take a shot? Okay.
Yeah, that's where the injury results from. But I helped set up the National Citizens Inquiry in the Maritimes and was one of those who testified and helped get like a bunch of witnesses and stuff and squared away. And I've spoken.
Thanks a bunch for helping with that.
Yeah, I've spoken numerous times since I'd been injured, kind of trying to blow the whistle. Spoke as part of the Canada Marches talks in Ottawa. Been interviewed by the likes of Steve Kirsch, Theo Fry, among many others, and talked at very great length with James Topp himself about what has happened in both that we are seeing with everyday people in EMS, and in particular, many in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Right.
But I guess the big thing that I can talk about, though, tonight, to let you know a little bit what's going on here in Nova Scotia with regards to mandates and trying to get people back to work.
Put your screen up.
Yeah.
There we go.
So not that long ago, we finally dropped the vaccine mandates from the Nova Scotia government. However, it's been replaced by a mandatory vaccine policy from Nova Scotia Health, indicating that indicating that any of us who work in healthcare are required to take 2 doses of the primary series vaccine or be put on unpaid leave or just not be allowed to return to work. And this, in its current state, is going to remain in effect until 2027. So another 4 years of this.
Wow.
I just found this policy not that long ago, but this comes on the heels of what happened maybe about a week or two ago down in Middleton, which is a hospital down in Annapolis Valley, where we had, and this has been happening. This has been happening a little bit before the pandemic, but it's gotten worse, where we've had emergency rooms being shut down due to staffing shortages, and it's only gotten worse. Where down in Middleton, we had a gentleman show up who was having a heart attack, ended up going into cardiac arrest, but couldn't get any help because the ER was closed, and the hospital staff had to call the volunteer fire department to come and run the cardiac arrest because there was no hospital staff available to run the arrest, and there was no physician on hand. So it was a combination between the volunteer fire department and then EHS would show up, which is the EMS service here in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
And ultimately, the gentleman died because the issue is not having firefighters respond to a cardiac arrest. I've seen people raise that complaint, saying, "Oh, what are firefighters doing responding to a cardiac arrest?" That's not the issue here. it's the fact that they had to respond to an emergency room to run a cardiac arrest, because a lot, like, the fire guys are all trained in doing this, and a lot of them are paramedics as well. But not only was it the fire department that had to show up, that would be secondary, or EHS would have been secondary to them, because our staffing issues in the EMS service are atrocious right now as well, because as Paul has mentioned before, we've got plenty of people who were canned due to mandates, and a lot of people who have quit, and it's ongoing. One of the positions that was let go was the emergency room physician, one of the emergency room physicians from that particular hospital. And Morgan and I have had conversations with the premier, the Minister of Health, and the CEO of Nova Scotia Health. And I've gone to them and told them like what happened in my case. Try to I won't dig into it to keep you YouTube safe, and they just
please, yeah. So keep that in mind, Paul. We're on YouTube on this episode.
Yeah, and they just
I gotta shut up completely.
Yeah, you just work a little bit on that one, because 2 strikes, that's 2 weeks for me.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you tell them these things, and like I'm the prime example of how this has gone wrong. It's a medical professional who was injured and who has lost their job because not following suit with the mandates thereafter, and would be, good to have brought back to work to help address this problem, but they just kind of glaze over and say, that's the policy, we're sticking with the policy, we're not changing it. And I can assure you, I've spoken to medics here, I've spoken to them in New Brunswick and across the country, and like these draconian mandates and like the effects and the way that all of this was handled over the last 3 years has had a tremendous impact on morale. And you see medics leaving in droves, not just here in Nova Scotia, but across the country.
Right. Alberta as well. Yes, you're right. Cross country.
Yeah. I was talking to a medic from BC not that long ago, and it's the same thing there. And it's their mandates even more draconian than ours, where they enforced these mandates on like medics who had been like off with like a blown shoulder, or off just on like just a regular workplace injury off on like WCB, and those mandates were forced on them. Otherwise, they're going to lose like their income. But
right.
Yeah, it's
so can I get you to do me a favor? So Morgan sent me a note. She has a work emergency that just came up. Could you grab a headline from Newfoundland Labrador PEI New Brunswick? I'm going to run to Paul next. We're going to talk to him for a bit. And then if I can bring those headlines on at the end, that would help me out, because she just gave me a reason she can't make it. Is that cool, Chet?
You want me to grab something from Newfoundland?
Newfoundland PEI in New Brunswick. And then while you're doing that, I'll talk to Paul for a bit, and then we'll come back to you. Okay. So, Paul, what's the update since last week? Without saying the V word too much, and without getting into the details that makes YouTube really happy, how you been for the last week? How's the work going? Are you getting some more of that out there? Did you find your independent guy yet out there? And how's that going?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And if you don't mind, Morgan did send me, she just asked me to come in at the last minute. And I happened to be here. So she sent me an email with all the news items from.
Perfect. So
if you don't mind,
there you go.
Yeah. How about if I just read them off? I'll just stick them here, and I'll turn my head.
Province first?
Newfoundland.
You put the flag up. There you go.
Yeah, she said the next worldwide rally will be September 23rd. And she hopes that many provinces, cities, and towns will participate, as many as possible. And Newfoundland, Dana Metcalf has started Operation Indigo. And there is a parade for the children planned on Sunday, July 9th at 2 p.m. That's this weekend coming at the War Memorial on Water Street, St. John's. Okay.
Okay, St. John's War Memorial.
Yep. In PEI, this is Morgan's note as well. Stephen Harris and Chris Burke run the Faith and Liberty website. That would be www.faithandliberty.ca website. And they help run events, podcasts, PPC events, and they have a Guns and Buns event on the 15th. And you can find
Guns
more.
and buns.
Guns and Buns.
That sounds
Hey,
great.
I'm a newsreader, man. I don't.
Yeah.
It must be good.
Walter Cronkite said that all the time.
That would be on the 15th. You can find more info at www.ppcpei.ca. Okay. And she's reached out to Laura Brandon. Again, this is PEI, to follow up on her work. Actually, she's done quite a bit here. Mm-hmm. She hasn't got an opportunity to deliver it tonight. So she reached out to Laura Brand to follow up on her work. And if you get a chance to watch her testimony at the National Citizens Inquiry, she recommends it. And
yes,
she's working on an alternative school called Island Haven Academy, and she'll be sharing the details soon. Okay.
Excellent.
Now she has
Laura Braden.
She has some Nova Scotia stuff too. Would you like to hear that?
Yeah, anything in New Brunswick, or we'll save that till the end?
Yeah. There's New Brunswick as well. Would you like me to do that first?
Yeah, and then we'll do Nova Scotia. We'll finish up there.
Okay, Jacob Buston is working on Glyphogate documentary trailer in New Brunswick, and she's going to get him on your podcast.
Excellent.
And he, I think this one's out of place. I'll skip it. There is a Moncton Diagolon barbecue meeting up August 12th, 12:30 p.m. at Centennial Park.
That sounds like fun.
Okay, and Scott Stewart's events, a Walk for Freedom Sunday, July 15th in the St. Stephen Wharf at 1 p.m. against digital IDs. Okay, so it's a walk against digital IDs. There will be a barbecue as well. Save Canada originated in Nova Scotia by, we're back into the Nova Scotia stuff. So I'm just jumping around a little bit. So shall I go to the Nova Scotia notices?
Sure, and then we'll wrap up with Chet and you. We're getting close to the end.
Yeah. Oh, this is good. She did a good job. I'm a mouthpiece for her. If I could share the
She's
screen.
been working all week, from what I understand.
I know she totally has. Okay. Mm-hmm. We will meet at the malls every Friday night from 6 till 9, alternating between Micmac Mall and Halifax Shopping Center. And it's a more or less social occasion. I'm there often, I'd say 60 to 75% of the time. This Friday, it will be at Micmac Mall at the group of tables in the food court next to the escalators. Please try to wear something that will make you stand out to newcomers or bring a Canada flag. Lee Baker and Emily Clark Hahn of Nova Scotia United Party are working with a new candidate in North Preston. They're running a candidate in this upcoming election from that'll be in North Preston. So good luck to them for that. Thanks to many emails from local freedom lovers. The Sound of Freedom is playing at Nova Scotiabank Theatre in Halifax this Friday, the 7th at 1, 4, 7, and 10 p.m. And the last thing is Save Canada originated. There's two items. Save Canada originated in Nova Scotia by Nelson Purcell, Cole Campbell, and Zachary McKibben, and today Joshua Alexander, and asked to remove his Save Canada ball cap during his brother's graduation event, though others were permitted to wear hats, and it was a public school adorned with pride flags. So there's an issue. I think that one is becoming fairly well known. You probably know about it, Jason.
I actually interviewed him on Monday, so there's an interview about that on Monday.
Okay, there's one last item, and I particularly like this one. So Martin Broadman is looking for volunteers for CATS, which is Community Accountability Transparency Councils, and there's no political alignment at all for that. And this is a grassroots organization to participate and impact and give guidance to municipal matters and provincial matters. So it's a new thing that's common in Switzerland that he's trying to cultivate here in Nova Scotia. He's very sincere and he's doing a good job at it. That's it.
Okay, cool. So, Chet, actually, we can go to Paul now because, Paul, you have your own update as well since we last spoke to you.
Yeah, I did get the FOI pop from the Privy Council. I just got it today, so I've been reading through it. And just a reminder, what it is, it's a PowerPoint presentation that was given to the Privy Council on how appropriately to deal with the public in relation to the cascade of adverse reactions to the vaccine. So it was basically an Edward Bernays propaganda piece. It's straight out of a psychology textbook, and it is instructive to members of the Privy Council and all the downstream listeners to the Privy Council, which would be the medical people. And it gave them guidance on how to diminish both the adverse effect numbers, the consequences, but also how to cloud them so that people couldn't tell whether it's just a normal reaction that people have or it's a reaction to the vaccine. So, so I'm trying not to step on the YouTube.
I appreciate that.
I might have just done it, but anyway. So this FOI pop came from, and I urge everyone to go to Blacklock's Reporter. So we got a subscription to that yesterday or today, and the people there sent us the FOI pop. So I'm just going through it. I haven't seen it all, but it's devastating. It's total government mind control, MK Ultra kind of nonsense, and it was planned, thought through, and it's incredible.
All right, so the doc. Go ahead, Chet.
Go ahead, Jason. Or I can add one thing to like the Privy Council. Just remember that privy is also another word for toilet, so it's appropriate.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Maybe it was from you or something else, but I saw that on Twitter. I think this week as well. Yep. Okay, so Chet, do you want to add some more to that, or the current condition of the healthcare system?
I can't really add much more without getting you in trouble. But what I can say is, with regards to Dr. Laura Braden, I can put you in touch with her. She's a very good friend of mine. If you'd like to speak to her, if you haven't already.
I haven't spoken to her.
Yeah, no, she's awesome. She's awesome. She's one of the people that helped me out after things kind of went sideways, and was the one who recruited me into the NCI and had connected me with James Topp. So she's an awesome person. So I'll put her in touch with you. It'd be good to talk.
That sounds great. For sure,
yeah.
Please, yes. Yep. And then Paul, how's the rest of your research going with the getting independent candidates or candidates? How's that project going?
It's been a waterfall. And I didn't expect it, and it's coming nationally now. So I thought 7 to 11. I think there's going to be candidates in every constituency in Nova Scotia. I can't contend with it. I'm just underwater.
That's a good problem to have.
It's a nice problem to have. And what I'm getting is communications from people that just want to run. They're in other parties and whatnot, and they just want to run because they see the sense of it. I mean, it's complex chess, right? So they see the sense in it for now. And what is the sense? Listen, you heard about Kyle. A new fellow just took over the Atlantica Party, and it was covered on CBC. And I had some consultants talking to me about it, and they figure that they want to split the Conservative Party, right? That's why the CBC is giving coverage to the Atlantica Party, because they're reasonably far right, and I'm not. I'm sort of a moderate conservative, I guess. Probably an old school liberal, and nowadays it's probably moderate conservative. But I think the strategy is to split the conservative, moderate conservative vote, not the far right group. But I don't care. I'm in favor of the Atlantica Party, the PPCs, and everything else that's going to contribute to Tim Houston taking a permanent vacation. So, like I said, it's just the reception's been wild, just over the top. And I didn't expect that. And it's like so soon. Like I just started this thing, right? And it's got legs of its own. And here's the point. It's not mine. Right? This is just to get the independents to do their own thing. And now the cat's out of the bag. There's really nothing I can do about it now, which is fine. That's the way I'd like to have it. You know?
And then Chet, would you run? He's looking for candidates all over Nova Scotia.
No. I want to go back to work, man. I want to get back on the trucks, get back on the ambulance, and go back and finish my fire training.
Yeah, send me a link so I can get a hold of you, Chet.
Yeah. Morgan gave me your email, so I will send you.
Okay, because I've got a lot of new information you may want. I've been very busy.
Yeah. I think you and I should be working together quite a bit. I do have something else, Jason, for you. I just put it in the chat
go ahead,
there.
please.
This is not specifically to Nova Scotia, but it has to do with the NCI. So tonight we are having a roundtable again. We tend to have one every week or two, and tonight it's with Dr. J.J. Cooey, Laura Jeffries. She was the embalmer who testified, I believe, in Toronto, among several others. So if anyone wants to listen, these will all be posted on the NCI website at some point, along with the rest of our testimonies. We're just there's a lot of content there to edit and put together, and then all the pieces of evidence and stuff that go alongside with it. So it's a work in progress, but this is going to be happening probably around when you wrap up this evening, Jason, is when that'll start. Okay. And they tend to run for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. They're usually very good conversations, especially even just to listen to Sean Buckley talk for you could listen to that guy talk all night, but they're usually very good.
Okay, thank you. I'll share that on my Twitter as well. Actually, I'll just do that right now.
Thanks, buddy. So
you guys can find that on my timeline right now. There you go. And I'm trying to get a hold of Sean. So Sean is one of these hard to get guests. Tom Marazzo, myself, I've been trying to get a hold of Sean. So if you can put a word in.
I can probably get a hold of him for you.
Yeah, that would be great. We've been trying to get him on for a little while now. We have, actually, I'll save that for tomorrow. I'll save that for Alberta. But we have an announcement about who's joining us tomorrow from the NCI. There's a special guest coming tomorrow. Abbott, what's his first name? Ron? Hold on. I'll just get it right now because I got the cat out of the bag. So let's let the cat fully out of the bag. Rick Abbott. So the ex-staff sergeant police officer who's supporting the convoy out in Alberta, he'll be on tomorrow. So we'll have some good conversation with him. So we can wrap up now. The theme for today, for this relay, is going to be unity. So is there any way that we can tie unity into your stories? And I think what Paul did was he gave us a bunch of different events that people can meet at in the different provinces. So that would be definitely unity. And Paul's working on independent candidates across Nova Scotia. So that's the type of unity. And then Chet, you want to kind of maybe tie in the medical story to unity?
Sure. There's a book I've been reading actually called 180 Degrees. It was recommended to me by Dr. Jessica Rose, if you know who she is. And in it talks about how to have difficult conversations about these types of things that have been happening and how to kind of open people's eyes and bring them into the fold, if you will. And one of the key things that it stresses, and this is the kind of thing I've tried to stress too, is you need to stop approaching this like when you're trying to talk to people who don't know what's going on, as if you're trying to win an argument. The goal is to try to make them ask a question and to get curious. And when you do have the conversation, there's two things you need to do. The first is to be kind, and the second is to be right. And that's how you win people over. That's how we all
come
together.
Yeah.
And speaking of winning people over and coming together, here's Kevin, here's Lex. And then Paul, you want to have last word and pass it off to Kevin?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I want to remind everyone that when the Israel left Egypt, they thought they were in for something good, and they ended up in a desert for 40 years. Okay? And this is what we're doing. So it's not going to be a party. It's going to be a struggle, and that's where the glory is going to come from. So it's understanding the nature of what we're into. So it's okay. Everything's going to be good.
So we'll unify in the desert for 40 years is what you're saying?
Absolutely. This is where we're at. We're in the desert, folks, and it's okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Paul and Chet. And now we're going to move on over to Quebec. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
We'll catch you soon. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
Super fantastic.
Super fantastic. Not just fantastic, but très fantastic. Super fantastic.
Yeah, today was a little bit of a rough day, but I managed to make it.
Thank you very much for making it. Sorry about your rough day. If you want to get into it, I can pull up a chair and sit back. But today's topic is unity. So if there's a way to get unity into your message, that'd be great.
Well, I really haven't been following along too much with Quebec politics as it stands right now. So maybe Lex would be able to carry the torch when it comes to unity. So I'm going to unify us together by allowing him to speak on unity.
Sounds
right
good.
on.
We'll come back to you at the end. Hey, brother, how you doing, Lex?
Good. Nice to see both of you again, and happy
Nice
to jump
hear
in
you.
here. So on the topic of unity, the first thing that springs to mind, something that I was inspired by Chet's baseball cap, actually, because on the front he had the initials FYMM, and you can Google what that means because it's not YouTube
We know
friendly.
what that means,
right?
Yeah.
And to me, that ties into unity because we need united non-compliance, much more of it in this country. So that's how I would tie it in.
I like that. Keep going.
Also, passing the torch is an ancient Greek tradition. And that I'm going to use that to segue to another ancient Greek, a Greek goddess called Athena, the goddess of war. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of some riots that allegedly broke out in Montreal the other day in solidarity with the riots that have broken out and are ongoing in France. Now, what is the connection to the Greek goddess of war, Athena? There was last year a movie that was released called Athena. Okay, and here is the storyline for Athena. And tell me if it relates to what happened in the France riots. In the Athena movie, a teenage Algerian is murdered by police, French police, and French immigrants and refugees and migrants go on a nationwide riot in retaliation. Does that sound familiar?
You're reading from the headline, right? This is not
right.
That sounds exactly like what's going on.
To me, because that's exactly what happened. A young Algerian boy was killed by police, allegedly, and French immigrants and migrants and refugees have rioted in response to that. And I would call what's going on now the sequel to the movie.
Okay, so what do you think that means? Are we getting a little pre-taste of something that's to come, or what do you think that means? And how does this movie end, by the way?
I have not watched the movie, right? I'm not going to watch that Netflix propaganda, right? I just watched the trailer and read a synopsis. But I think it points to something that I've been noticing, and that me and my co-host Beach have been talking about on our podcast, which is this kind of blurring of lines between fantasy and reality, right? And the riots in France and the movie Athena are an example of that. Then I think it was last week or the week before, we had that sub called the Titan that went down to find the Titanic, right? And then we get interviews from James Cameron with his expert opinion. So again, this blurring of lines between fantasy movies and reality.
Right.
And I think it was last year as well where we had that train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Remember that?
Yep.
And prior to that, there was a movie release called White Noise with the exact same plot line. Okay.
So do you think they're letting the signals out and then following through with plans, or do you think?
I think there's a bit of predictive. I think there's predictive programming going on, but I also think that it points to where they're trying to take us, which is really, like I said, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. They really want us in front of our black mirrors at all times, right? Because then we're much more easily propagandized and manipulated. And I'll even throw in another connection that just came across my phone yesterday, I believe. This was in 2019, right? So pre-scamdemic, okay? There's a reality show called Project Runway. It's like a fashion show, I think. I've never watched it.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about that COVID thing now?
Correct, right? We had a young fashion designer whose name is COVID with a K, Okay. And part of his ensemble, let's say, were self-designed masks, right? This is pre-scamdemic. Okay. And get this, I went to his clothing company website, right? And it's called COVID Lab.
Yeah, I know.
I
I
think
saw
it's
that one
beautiful.
too. Yeah, a couple people brought that one to me as well. There is a fact check on that from routers, and it is what it is. Look, their names are names. There's a girl out there named Isis, and that sucks. And COVID is a male's name in India, so having that come up isn't a huge deal. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, because this is something that's been coming a lot in my chats recently, is this particular subject. And then, Kevin, we spoke to Daniel about Venezuela and all of that stuff. And I know this is not adding to the mood, but do you want to kind of recap some of that? Because that does impact Canada.
Yeah, so basically what we went over with was the political and economic relations between the two countries, and how if you want to talk about like movies and predicting the future, Venezuela was more of a movie that's predicting Canada's future that was set 20 years in advance, right? So what they went through from 2000 to what they're still going through now, and it's just getting worse, was basically forecasting what countries like Canada are ultimately going to go through. And yeah, sure, they're not going to be the exact same. Nothing's a carbon copy, right? But history does often rhyme. It may not always repeat, and there are different scenarios, different circumstances, and different initial conditions that led to the ultimate outcome in Venezuela. But they're fairly correlated in terms of corruption in the corruption in the government, economy built on resources that the wealth has been robbed by the elites, and yada yada yada, ideologically subverting the education system. And there's just so many comparisons that you really kind of ignore what happened over the last 2 decades in Venezuela to what's happening today.
Okay, so the unity there is Canada's in deep trouble collectively. So we're going to unify by being in trouble on this one. Now, you guys were talking about some similarities between the indoctrination of the children, the education system. Unions were taken over. They even had organized crime was being used to control the people. And do you want to kind of recap some of that, and then we can tell people to go watch that video?
Well, the one thing that he said that really aided Venezuela in the takeover, the government takeover, was the military, right? So a huge military presence that really validated Hugo Chavez. After the coup, right? They kind of liberated and they rallied around him, and that's the one thing that Canada doesn't have. And Daniel pointed to that, right? He said that Canada doesn't really have a military, and they're not even a paper tiger, right? They're basically non-existent. But he said that, and we pointed out that where they lack where we lack in military, we more than make up for in indoctrination of the education system. And he pointed out that is far more powerful than the military itself, because then you're basically attacking the people at their core values, and not using force but subverting them, and really allowing those ideas to foster and to build over time, to where you get to a point where you don't even need a military, because everybody has been working so hard on destroying society themselves that a military at that point is kind of redundant.
Well, that feels great. So we're gonna have to take care of ourselves. What you're saying, make sure they don't disarm us. Make sure we fight for that. Make sure we keep that. Hide it if we have to. And did you catch my interview with Tracy Wilson on Monday?
I did not, but I do have to look back and watch some of your interviews. I've been pretty swamped here, and I really haven't had much time other than what I've been dedicating to you. But I definitely will go back and look. And one of the things I do want to touch base on is what Lex was talking about with the Montreal protesters. And one of the things that I asked myself as it was happening, right, a couple of days ago when it was unfolding, I said, Quebecers bent bent the knee to these authoritarian mandates, and they didn't riot, they didn't rally, they didn't protest in the streets. Maybe maybe a few of them did, but there wasn't this mass movement. And then all of a sudden this happens in France, and this protest or rally happens in Quebec and Montreal, and they said it doesn't really pass the sniff test, right? So it just points to me that it is more planned riots and planned protests. And if you really look at what's happening in France, the people that are doing this, they're well organized and they're highly intelligent, right? They know how to blow things up. They're pyrotechnics, they're tacticians, right? These people that are rioting and burning France down, they're not your everyday person that is working a 9-to-5 job. These people are they seem to be educated in subvertive tactics. So it just makes me wonder, what's the real play at here? And one of the things that we saw, they said that they wanted to, censor the internet or eliminate internet from the French from the France itself. Maybe bring in martial law, curfews and all that sort of thing. So I think this is basically a test pilot for what is to come, and they're basically seeing how the world reacts and what the response is in France, and see where they went wrong, and see where they can improve on to make more things go wrong in other countries moving forward. So it just doesn't pass the sniff test. Like I said, it sounds like more like anarcho tyranny to me, and I just don't really buy what they're trying to sell.
Okay, could this be their Jan 6, their convoy? Because it seems like in order for a collapse to happen, there needs to be one of those, like the coup attempt in Venezuela. Could this be France's version of that, like we were talking about with Daniel?
Well, I want to hear what Lex has to say, and if he has a view on anything that I talked about, I would like to hear what he has to say, and then I'll be more than happy to follow up. Okay, Lex, back to you, bud.
Okay, yeah, Kevin made a bunch of great points there, and I agree with all of them. And it makes me wonder, those people that are on in the streets in France, they look, like Kevin said, they look very well organized and look well funded too. That a bunch of Ukraine money maybe funnel its way into France.
I don't know if it's
right. I think it's a good question, right? I'm just throwing it out there, but I think we should keep talking about France though, because something like that could happen here eventually, right? We did see it break out in Montreal as a reaction, right, in solidarity. And I think we should talk about the issues surrounding the riots in France. What has led to that, right? Why is this happening? And issues like Canadian identity and immigration seem to be off the books right now, right? Start talking about immigration and you're going to get name called, you're going to get labeled. And why is that? Well, I think in large part it comes from the top down. Okay, take our dear leader Justin Castro, right? An interview with the New York Times magazine from October 2015. He's quoted as saying, when it comes to Canada, there is no core identity, no mainstream in Canada. Oh, really, Justin? I wonder how Canadians feel about that, if they feel like there's no mainstream in Canada and no core identity. And then he goes on in that interview to say, Canada could be the first post-national state. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, I could say rhetorically, what does he mean by that? But we know what he means by that, right? That he is a globalist, right? And he is following a globalist agenda, and he would love nothing more than to dissolve Canada into as many pieces as possible.
Well, we want to unify Canada, not dissolve it. We want to keep it together. And last couple of weeks, Lex, you would give us an update on your neighborhood and your neighbors and whether or not the attitude they're starting to change. Before we fly back to Kevin on that, finish up here, do you want to kind of update us on that? Is it still getting better, or what's going on there?
I think things are good overall, right? I think they have been for quite a while now, right? People are just kind of trying to get on with their lives. They're over the scamdemic nonsense. And they're not really getting triggered by the climate change hysteria the way that the authorities would like. And I hope it continues, right? And I see a lot of solidarity out there, and I'm very hopeful for the future. I think that's what we need. I think too much time is too much attention is being paid to elections, right? I have lost all faith in elections. I think they're rigged to a certain degree. And even if they're not, I don't think it's the ultimate solution. And I would let me finish that thought off with a little kind of like a rhetorical question here, right? If you were to ask the average Canadian, is there corruption in politics, right? Kevin and Jason, what do you think would be the percentage of Canadians that would agree that yes, there is corruption in politics?
You just mean any corruption in any type of politics? Of course,
Any
yes.
type of corruption in politics. I think most Canadians would agree, yes. Is that fair to say?
I'd say 80-20.
The ones that don't agree are corrupt themselves. So it's 100%.
Okay. Right. Now on election day, when it's for all the marbles, right? When the people in power will either retain power or power will switch hands. On that day, everybody plays by the rules. There's no corruption. You see what I'm saying? Of course, there are shenanigans on election day. And until those election shenanigans are addressed, I can't take it seriously.
Okay, well, that's something to be worked on for sure. I don't know if you'll ever get complete corruption out of government and the elections. It's a tough one. So, Kev, do you want to wrap up? And we're going to be passing over to Ontario in a few minutes here.
Yeah, I mean, you can just pull up, U.S. Foreign meddling in elections, right? And there's well documented, historic evidence of the United States meddling in foreign elections. So if the United States is doing it, then China's doing it, and Russia's doing it, and we're doing it to our own elections, and everybody is meddling in everybody else's affairs, and ultimately what you get is one big mess of corruption. Where at the end of the day, whoever is selected, it doesn't really matter, right? Because they're bought and paid for by the highest bidder, and people are so focused on their vote every 4 or 5 years, depending on your election season. But they spend very little time thinking about the vote that actually matters, and that's the vote that they make with their wallet, right? The dollar, where they decide to spend their their hard-earned cash, and that has way more power than the ballot box ever has, right? So you can choose if you want to support a cause or not support a cause, or put money towards something or against something, and at a community level, if you can get more and more people to understand this, then the vote with your dollar is far more powerful than your vote at the ballot box every few years.
Point, Lex, you want to follow up?
100%. I agree 100%. Very well said.
Okay, well, that's a good follow-up. We got unity on that message for sure, gentlemen. So do we want to get ready to pass it on over to Ottawa? Who wants to do that, Lex or Kevin?
I'll let Lex do it. I did it last week.
Sure, I'll pass the torch. Who am I passing the torch to?
Okay, let me get them on. We got Donald Best, your buddy, and
Right
Ashley.
on.
Hi, Ashley.
Nice.
Hey there.
Hello,
Hey,
Donald.
Donald.
Hello, Ashley. I'm going to pass the United non-compliance torch to the both of you. Good luck.
Ladies go first.
Well, thank you very much.
Hello, Ashley, and thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you very much, Lex. We look forward to another update next week. And yeah, it's a little dark out there, but thank you guys for being truthful about that. Take care, Kev. Take care, Lex.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. All right, Ashley, it's your first time. Welcome from Ontario. You're one of my Twitter buddies. We are in a couple groups together, or a group together, and we get to hang out. So why don't you introduce yourself quickly? And yeah, how's Ontario doing?
So my name is Ashley. I'm what do I say? I'm in northern-ish Ontario, near North. And so I'm kind of away from a lot of the insane chaos, but I lived in the GTA for quite a while, so I'm actually a recovering quasi-socialist, and it's only through starting to pay attention that I'm realizing just how much I've been pretty duped over the years. So I think I do kind of have an interesting perspective, because I've had a lot of the views that I'm trying to kind of wake people up on now. So that's me. And also, I just wanted to...
She got one of the first copies, folks. It's been delivered. Look at that. That's awesome. I still have my not for resale one, the proof book. I don't even have a copy yet. It's on its way. Thank you very much for getting that.
Good. Looks really good.
Yeah.
And start bearing witness.
That's awesome, and looking forward to your review as well. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Oh, I didn't even plan that, folks. Thank you very much, Ashley. That was awesome. And that's a gift for somebody?
Yes, it's a gift from my hubby. So he got an early birthday present.
Oh, you must love him a lot then, I guess. Hey, Donald, and you're the other person that picked up a copy. You got the digital one too. You still making your way through that?
So how much did I put in your pocket there?
For the digital
10
one?
cents? 20 cents?
Not much. Not much. No. But
well,
thank you very much for getting a copy.
Well, let me just say this before we go to where Ashley is going to take us. And that is, your book is now my first recommendation to the people who ask me, they have to self-represent in court. Where do I start? I send them to your book first because it's all about evidence and decorum, and it works in any jurisdiction. It really does.
Thank you very much, Donald. That means a lot coming from you, of course. That means a lot. Thank you. That was the goal. I do want to educate people on how to be good witnesses, whether you're in public or in court and everything in between. So thank you very much, Donald. All right, so now we're going to go. I kind of taken aback by both of you. You guys are a little pitchmen for us, and you paid for it too. So that's awesome. Ashley, so what we do on this show is we pass this one theme down. It's going to be unity today. And each little news item that we talk about, we're going to try and find a way to weave that into the conversation so that we can pass over to Manitoba the baton of unity. So what's going on? Is Doug Ford still running the ship? How are things going? Like, what's the scoop this week?
Well, Olivia Chow she hasn't even taken office yet. I guess that's happening July 12th. And she's already planned some meetings to discuss the poor air quality in Toronto. And so I think she's already got a bee in her bonnet about potential climate lockdowns. So we're already on that. We've got that ball rolling, I guess. We had our fireworks canceled up here because of wildfires, I guess. So it's just a bunch of interesting stuff coming down the way for, I think, like the push for climate lockdowns and I mean, Olivia Chow doesn't even have her business cards yet, and she's all over it already. So
but what's a climate lockdown? You're going to lock people down? Like, what do you mean by that?
Well,
for people who don't know,
it's in theory. I think that the government is really starting to push the idea that our meat eating or beef eating is creating climate change. The gas cars that we drive are creating climate change. And so we could see, I think, a lot of sort of mandates coming down the line with respect to climate, which I think could parallel the COVID lockdowns. That's, of course, just a theory at this point. But I don't know, the lockstep seems to be kind of happening not just in Canada, but also in other parts of the world where they're really hammering on about the climate change stuff and kind of the WHO as well. You know, they're starting to discuss this type of stuff. So we'll see what happens.
So you've seen a lot more of it recently, and you're seeing it kind of come up more and more.
Yeah, and it's just kind of strange because where we are, for quite a few days there was a lot of just smoke in the air, even though we had such insane rain that it killed some of my flowers. And it just didn't make sense that, we'd wake up the next day and then there'd strangely be smoke everywhere. And I don't know, I'm trying not to wear too much of a tinfoil hat, but I'll just say it seems strange.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think chapter 3 and 4 will help you a lot. It's about bearing witness, recording it, keep a record of it. So go ahead and do that. And Donald, so you're closer to the GTA. So you had that election. Olivia Chow's already starting to make some movement. Is she going to put a big bubble around Toronto at some point and vacuum all the clean air into it? Or like, what's she going to do over there?
Well, I think she's going to mandate communist uniforms for all the police officers. And, listen, she is what Toronto elected. And everybody knew who she is, what she wants. She is a socialist with a capital C communist. That's what she is. And she is as woke can be.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that's really tearing apart the urban areas all across Canada and across the United States, of course, is crime, homelessness, drugs. If you look at the headlines, and I have them lined up here, Toronto Sun, Toronto's killing season kicks off.
Killing season.
Yeah, it's summer. It's summer, and in summer four charged after Toronto cops seized drugs and loaded gun. Police identify senior killed in assault. Charges upgraded. Fentanyl death, weakened overdoses, prompt warning from York Regional. I think we had something like 9 fentanyl deaths in 4 days. 9 in 4 days. Okay. And 2 wounded after drive-by shooting in Scarborough. Mississauga shooting sends 4 people to hospital, including 1 in critical condition. That was a shootout on the street, by the way. You know, and these are the headlines. Now you talk about predictive programming. Are these, you know, is this being allowed to happen? The homelessness that we see, the camps that are set up, people fighting for them, and I mean politicians and people who claim to have a social conscience, fighting to set up injection centers in your neighborhood, which of course just brings trouble and death. And you know, it seems like it's almost all planned. You get more of what you subsidize, and we're doing our best to subsidize drugs and crime and all the rest of that. Does that matter? Well, you know, in small town Ontario, which I'm also have a foot in, even the northern towns like Cochrane, Timmins, they have drug problems. They have people living in the streets. They have things that we just never saw before in Canada. We really didn't. And they're coming to small town Ontario. And you know, this is a reality. But my question is, just like France, and here we go, France took in something like 1 million migrants, but they weren't 1 million migrants. You know, a refugee or a true migrant arrives with his wife and families. But when you take in 1 million single men of military age with no women or children traveling with them, you've got something else. And that's been happening now for a long time. So I think that the riots that we saw, you know, the shooting of the young man who, by the way, had a lengthy criminal record, and made some videos that predicted violence. You know, that was just a catalyst. It was just an excuse. It wasn't the real cause. And so we see these social changes moving through society, and our governments seem to be chauffeuring them through, and they're destructive.
Well, there's an actual question related to this for you, Donald.
Yes. Okay.
Lightbulb Moment located a document recently shows that migrants are changing their names at the rate of 200 to 250 per week in Ontario. So that's kind of curious.
Well, that's curious. But maybe they have reasons to change their name.
That's what I think they're asking there. Do you think there's a reason for it? And if so, what would it be?
Well, there are many reasons. First of all, it's tough to get a job sometimes when your name indicates that we don't know if you're a man or a woman or what language you really speak. You know, there are many names that are not typical to Canada, and they're new, And people look at them, and I have personal experience with this in my family. And it's not a racism. It's a, I don't know. I don't know how to handle this person. I don't know if this person is male or female, because you're not allowed to ask that anymore. And I mean, I have a relative who changed her name from what it was. She tried to get hired for 6 months and changed her name to Mary Ann, and was hired the next day with 2 job offers, unseen, just by her paper resume. So that's a reason for changing the name. Another reason for changing the name is because you have political problems back home, or you're a criminal, or you got married. So there's a lot of good reasons to change your name: getting a job, marriage, lose some problems back home that are not your fault, maybe. But there's also some other reasons for changing your name.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for the answer on that one. So Ashley, we'll move to you now. So in the theme of unity, how's your neighborhood coming? How's the schools? Are there any indoctrination issues? Are there any school board issues? Are they working on it? Can you kind of give us an update of your locale, your region?
I actually don't have children, so I'm not that involved with the educational system. But I did actually have quite an interesting chat with a bunch of teachers and principals and a VP that I'm friends with. So I've gotten to know them over the years, and the principal of the school told me that she has no idea what's going on in the schools. The Board of Education basically has cut her out, and the Board of Education actually sends the like emails directly to the teachers, and she's told me that she has to actually ask some of the teachers that she's friends with to forward her the emails so that she has an idea of what's going on. And I said, like, you have to fight back on this. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, you're supposed to be the one that's running your school, and you don't know what's going on. And she said, well, I don't have a union, so there's really pretty much nothing I can do. And that just, it blew my mind. So and then as far as unity in another direction, so I mean, as a recovering socialist, I have a bunch of friends who are pretty far left. And just last night, we got together with some friends and family that are pretty far on the left. And I kind of didn't want to go because I feel like I have I have no common ground with them anymore. And then I thought about a spaces that Chris Erickson just had, and he was talking about the importance of, you know, finding that connection in our communities and with the people around us. It's not just about being on Twitter and, you know, kind of getting your confirmation bias from your own echo chamber. And so I took that to heart, and actually, we discussed some of the more sort of stickier topics, but, you know, relatively politely. And at one point I actually did call them a bunch of lefties, and then I had to take a step back and say, like, you know what, I'm actually sorry for saying that. I'm kind of new at having different political opinions, and I'm actually used to talking to people who agree with me. And I think it was a nice conversation and a really good way to there were a lot of things that they're not aware of. And so something that I kind of want to make a point of doing without being overly annoying about it, but I would like to have, like, maybe on my phone, a notepad with some of the more pertinent data that I want to be able to bring up, like, say, about Bill C-4 or, just some of the issues that I'm very, very concerned about right now, because I don't want to overwhelm them with stuff, but I'd like to be able to have things I can pull up that are, can help them to just understand the seriousness of the issues that I'm seeing.
Yeah. So near the end of my book, in the appendix, you're going to have a whole bunch of things that will help you do that when it comes to witnessing. So I guess that's what you're referring to. So like a little cheat sheet on how you can respond to
Yeah.
certain questions.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. And I really love how you took Chris's advice to heart and implemented right away. He might be on tonight, so he's going to love hearing about that. So you were able to sit down with lefties and have a conversation, which was cool. How did that work? Did you get anybody to kind of maybe move on their position or open their ears at all on any subject? Did you have any success?
Well, like with Bill C4, there were certain, certain things that they just didn't know about, and so I could see their consternation, whether or not they, do anything about that, I don't know. But even, like we were just talking about Olivia Chow and how they're actually not thrilled with her being the mayor, and they live in Toronto, and so I think the most important thing that kind of took place from all of that was that we were showing each other that we can have different views and still have a conversation and be respectful, and just to try and keep an open mind and just keep the conversation going, because when you see everything on the mainstream media or on Twitter, there's just so much there's just so much combat going on, and that's not how it is in the real world. And so we just have to keep trying to make those connections, even if we don't agree. And I think it's really important to make sure that we're steel manning our own arguments, and that we're not getting caught in an echo chamber where maybe we're not seeing the other side and some of the important points that they have. So it was helpful for me to realize, no, I'm a lot of things that I'm concerned about, they were steel manned, and I believe they were straw man. But anyways, that's maybe I'm a bit biased there.
No, you're doing great. And then on C4, what was it that they didn't know about that kind of caught their eyebrow?
They didn't know Bill C4 at all.
They didn't know it existed. They just knew conversion therapy, and that's all they knew.
They didn't know that the parents, aren't able to, the whole conversion therapy thing, and how the parents aren't able to question that or guide them maybe to see if maybe becoming trans isn't quite right for them, and they're just confused. They had no clue that this was made a law. So. And
then what was their response to that? Were they against the fact that you couldn't talk to a confused child? I
think that was a little out of their comfort zone, because weaponized compassion and all that. So I think that they kind of just said that can't be happening, and then just wanted to go and put their heads in the sand. So
the denial is strong with that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least they did test with it. They don't like it. They just don't think it's real.
Yeah, and I think that's where if I could have pulled up some of the House of Commons webpage and had the actual points within the bill, so we say, no, look, this is what they voted for unanimously. It would be more helpful. I'm very data driven, so I would like to have kind of more guidelines to help me wake people up as well on things like that.
Well, I'll show you how to search Twitter, because there's a way to search Twitter by users and stuff, and I write about all this stuff. So if you did a search for me for C4, I'm sure you'll have 2 or 3 tweets that will help you there.
Okay.
That might be one way to do that. Okay, so Donald, let's wrap it up with you. So we pass it off to Ashley. You said ladies first, so then gentlemen go last. So you'll be passing this off to Manitoba. Look at that shirt, make 1984 fiction again. She's got the book, and she's got my book. She's got the shirt. This is an awesome woman. And then I think maybe next week we might meet Steve.
Maybe.
Cool. And when is his birthday? Is this coming up and just around the corner?
July 9th.
Oh, good. You just doxed him. So, Steve, July 9th over. We got no years. You keep the year to yourself. It's not 1984, right? Is that the hint? Right. You just give it right there?
That's where we all live right now, 1984. before.
Yeah, for sure. So, Donald, you heard what you had to say, and that was a pretty good breakdown, and that sounded pretty good. There was some unity there. She's chatting with some of her friends, and they're open-minded to an extent until it gets a little icky for them. Once it gets a little icky, they get to the safe place of the la 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 la. So, but at least there's a conversation that can be had. That's good news.
It is, but you know, I think Ashley's absolutely right when she identifies that many people simply don't believe what you're saying. That can't be true. It just can't be true, no matter what the subject is. So you have to know your stuff, but there's still this element of disbelief, and you have to break through that. Now, I think as the media, as the bought and paid for media goes down and private and independent media rises, we're going to break through some of that. People are learning, but it's a tough go. It's like you're from the planet Zontar trying to tell them that the sky is yellow or something. That they just don't believe you.
Zontar sounds pretty fun with that yellow sky. Do you want to go ahead and let people know what you're working on in the mornings as a little bit of a goodbye, and then we'll pass it on to Zahena?
Sure. Well, we're going to have an excellent guest in the morning. We're going to look at. Hang on here. Let me just. Dear. Over here. Okay. We're going to be talking to ex-Edmonton Police Staff Sergeant Rick Abbott. And Rick was someone who was fired for a couple of reasons, forced into retirement. One was he didn't want to tell him what his medical status was, even though he had the vaccination. And two, he went down to Coots and to the next one over and said some kind words to people and gave them peaceful encouragement. And for that, the system came down on him like a ton of bricks.
Yep. So ex-police officer from Edmonton was being a nice guy, does the right thing. He is vaccinated. He just didn't think he had to give his status up. And for those reasons and those reasons alone, he was canned. So we'll be speaking to him tomorrow as part of our Coots coverage. And he also was testified at the NCI, and his testimony, if you haven't seen it, you can find it in my tweet. Watch it. I don't understand how this wasn't our front page news, his testimony, because he just told us everything. The coercion of the police onto themselves to take the vaccine, the shame room. He talked about the shame room. So tune in tomorrow, everybody, because you'll be able to hear from him about this as well. So thank you very much, Donald. So you're going to pass the torch down to Zahena. He's got a little musical release that we're going to do, and then we'll get into the news with Todd. And thank you very much, Ashley. Enjoy that book. It won't put you to sleep. You'll be up all night turning chapters, I swear.
Awesome.
Bye, Donald. Thank you, Ashley. Nice meeting you in person. I've seen you online. Take care. Bye. Hey, Zahena, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. You're just pumping out the music, song after song after song, and you just sent me another one that I haven't heard yet either. That's pretty neat, buddy. Yeah, tell us about your weekend. Your weekend on all this work.
Well, I've been working on new stuff since about August last year when we first contacted, and I've got probably closer to 2 albums worth of stuff to get through. I just sent one track to Forrest, the original drummer from Big Wreck. He's going to drum on it, not this next Monday, but the Monday after. And then this song that I just sent you, I actually recorded it in 2021 with him, but I re-recorded it now that I can actually make it sound pretty decent. So, yeah.
Okay, so how about we play that one, because that's your fresh one. I haven't even heard it yet, and that means nobody else has heard it either.
Yeah, well, it's the demos out there, but not this version.
Okay, so we are going to be breaking a new version then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Todd, I'm just going to mute you for a quick sec, because it looks like you got some weather there. That's kind of neat. We got a weather report. And let's check out this song from Zahena. Thank you, bud.
Broken in this prison cell.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah,
you.
buddy.
Thank you very
Wow,
much.
wow.
Thank
Did you see the chat on that one? Oh my
Yeah, I was
gosh.
watching that. I couldn't say anything else, so the music was on.
Yeah, they like that one, buddy. They like that one. So yeah, get that album out. I think you got some fans growing right here. And
Yeah,
Stephen, yeah, go ahead.
I've got a 6-song EP that's going to be coming out. That'll probably be the first track on it, I think.
Awesome. And what else are you expecting on that? Are you gonna get the theme song as well in there?
Yeah, that one's going to be on there too, as well as Don't Back Down. So I guess it'll be 2 or 3 new ones as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And then Stefan or Steven said, if we don't learn to love again, it's all over for us. Literally said that out loud to someone today. Right on,
That's
right
awesome.
on. That's awesome. That's awesome. The messages are getting up there. And then Dylan says, what is it on? Links. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find that?
Oh, that song's not out yet. The original, I guess, I don't know where you'd find it. I'm not sure if it's up on. I think Donald Williams Produced Music at Home YouTube channel has it, but it's not as well done as this version. This version sounds better.
Well, make sure that you guys go and follow Zahena Music on Twitter, and then when it goes out, you'll release that information there, I guess, right?
Sure. And if you want to find my music that is released, it's on my link in my profile, my Twitter profile.
Wonderful. So people will go take a look at that. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. So now we're going to go get the news, because we got weather and news with Todd. He's outside. He's got those dark clouds of Manitoba there. So, hey, Todd, what are you doing, bud? How are you?
Not bad, guys. Thanks for having me back once again. Yeah, I think I might have mentioned this the last time I was on, that, at this time of the day, I just usually happen to be outside. I'm usually either just getting home from work or busy out in the garden, of course, especially weather permitting. Yeah, I haven't actually sat down with you guys sort of like in the studio. I'm sure I'll have to get to that at some point, but I always seem to be out and about and doing things in the backyard or something like that right now. Yeah, actually the weather here isn't really all that interesting right now. There's been a bit of a cloudy day, but no major thunderstorms or anything that's really exciting or anything. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be outside right now. So no interesting weather to report. I hope everybody had a great Canada Day, though. Seems like there wasn't any sort of crazy nonsense like there has been in years past with people. Like I remember last Canada Day here in Winnipeg, because we were right in the middle of a civic election. It was a whole thing between a lot of the mayoral candidates about, how much red and white should we have at like the Forks on Canada Day versus, Indigenous flags or rainbow flags and wearing orange and that kind of thing. And I didn't really see a lot of that this year, so I guess that's kind of nice. But then again, the Forks did do this really silly thing with doing like I've seen a lot of clips of these drone shows, and I guess they can be pretty cool. I don't really know how the one at the Forks this year turned out. I saw a few people kind of mention that they would have preferred the old school fireworks. But whatever. I think it's most people should understand nowadays that if you're going to like the really large Canada Day events, there's a good chance it won't be super traditional anymore. So, you get together with your friends and family and do your own thing, right?
Yeah, and so you had no fireworks at all, because fireworks were canceled all over the place this year. Yeah,
I don't know if it was a fire kind of thing, because it's not like, I don't know. And it's not like Winnipeg itself is like super dry or anything like that. No, it was this whole themed thing. We touched on it on 1 or 2 reports last week, because some people had sent us photos of some of the posters that have been put up around the Forks area. And it was just this sort of, what was it like? Finding your North Star or finding the North Star or something like that. So, I mean, not too much of a stretch to imagine that it probably is some kind of more, I don't know, tied to Indigenous culture or kind of New Age spirituality, kind of blah, blah, blah. Probably some mishmash of the two, who knows? Again, not an event that I was planning on tending to, so I didn't.
Okay, cool. And then now, how's the political environment? What's going on with we didn't catch you guys last week, so we're kind of 2 weeks behind in Manitoba. And the last thing we really heard was Maxime's election loss, and then from there, we haven't really got an update from Manitoba.
Oh, we're talking about Maxime?
No, I'm saying we haven't had an update from Manitoba since Maxine. So what has happened?
Oh, yes,
since the
okay.
election loss?
Okay, well, the big sort of story that we were on, well, for the past like couple weeks, but I'd say some of the latest reports that I myself have put out, which you can go find on, some of them are already up on our website, wham.live. They're all up on our Rumble channel, of course. Yes, there, and on our Twitter as well too. We broadcast all of these reports live to Twitter as well. Yes, they're on Facebook as well too, but I'm not going to spend any time directing people to Facebook. If you want to find us on Rumble, that's just WPGALT Media. That's the one I would recommend. Anyhow, and that was this whole thing that all got started a couple weeks ago. I think I might have touched on it at one of the times that I was with you, about the school boards, and this kind of what we've been battling with here in the province, as far as kind of like a, well, kind of like a sort of media education government industrial complex, in a sense, that we kind of seem to have here in Manitoba, where it's pretty well known that the NDP of the province, who are really vying to get back into power in a big way right now, and that will all start in October of this year. It's been known for a while that they've used the school boards in the province as sort of a breeding ground for their candidates, their up-and-comers. I think that's probably only even increased as of late, when you have to do with just so much of the, of course, left-leaning ideologies and virtue signaling, especially like, with this whole thing to do with trans and LGBTQ, because of course, the NDP being very far left, and increasingly more so than they were just a decade ago. That's going to be something that they're going to want to use as part of their platform in a big way. So because that's happening in the schools in such a big way right now, there's been a lot of easy to see sort of connections here between LGBTQ sort of like organizations and activists, them probably being directly in connection with or involved in the school boards themselves, or even as other district employees. And then of course you throw the media into the mix as well too. And interestingly enough, the one player in the media here in Winnipeg, well, I guess I should say Manitoba actually, because it kind of goes province wide, is a specific young writer who I would imagine, of course, is quite far left-leaning and probably an NDP voter herself, a younger woman by the name of Maggie McIntosh, who is basically the one that is hired by the Winnipeg Free Press to specifically cover the news coming out of the school boards, and then I guess the schools in general. But mostly the inner workings, the politics of education in the province, I guess, especially when you get down to the level of the school boards and that type of thing. So of course she's had her hands full of the last several months, because there has been these protests and meetings happening at school board meetings and such, and libraries for now several months, and it's only kind of continued to heat up, because what we've seen, of course, is, well, two things. One, the school boards themselves will completely not do their job. They are like, we are trying to do our best, and many people are already on top of this. This is just something you'll continue to hear us reporting on throughout the rest of the summer, because when we get close to the end of August and September and the start of the new school year, this is all going to ramp up in another incredible fashion. So we know that they will lie, they will shut down the meetings, they will just do anything they can to run away and not do their job, not talk about some of the pornographic material in these books that are getting put in the libraries and the classrooms, not talk about, whatever it is that they want to go tell kids behind closed doors and not have to go tell their parents. All of these issues, there's a pretty good list of them, and they're all fairly egregious. And then the media, of course, will run cover and lie like you wouldn't believe. And so we just had to get more and more on uncovering this. And all of this started 2 weeks ago, when we were able to get live hidden camera footage from a school board meeting where they were suspending one of the school board members for online posts that, of course, don't go along with all of this sexualized children nonsense. And so, of course, there was a lot of concerned people there, because, again, like I was just saying, we're seeing this ramping up. Like just a few months ago, it was just, okay, the media is kind of lying. Yeah, they want to shut down the board meetings. They want to only allow a certain amount of people, and it's just continued to ramp up. We're now like, we have a meeting over that we tried to uncover all the different manipulation that was happening over in Brandon, And it was literally not even a public school board meeting. It was like an entirely staged event just to publicize an agenda and push it forward. So, it's only gotten nastier. Now we're talking about innocent employees getting suspended. That, of course, means that, they're out of a job. This happened to, of course, a friend of mine, Francine Champagne. You can see all of our reports on that. And this also meant that she lost her job. She lost 2 jobs, her position with the school board for at least 3 months, but we're very sure they're not going to want to bring her back in September. And then she lost another job that she had working within the schools as well too. So, we're talking about, and again, this continues to be very evident that, this is not just an ideology held by some. And when there's a disagreement, it's not just a disagreement, and there is no debate. This is aggressive. This is using the media, using any position of authority within or around the schools to wreck people's lives, to drag people through the mud in a very public fashion and completely screw them up as best as they possibly can. So it's been a big job for us of the past several weeks to kind of raise the alarm. And, Francine had darn near 3,000 people vote her into that school board, that school trustee position. So, darn near 3,000 people need to be raising holy hell pretty much to see her reinstated, and to see that the suspension is only 3 months, and that maybe there could even be some recourse for the fact that they've even gone this far.
Wow.
So the latest big report that we just did just a few days ago, it's not up on the website yet, but it is up on Rumble and would have been broadcasted over our Twitter feed as well too, was more damning evidence. As I've been starting to work with another great independent journalist here that does Wake Up Canada News, that being Brad. We've been doing some reporting together. He's been reporting on this issue with the school boards as well too, and he was at the school board meeting that we got the hidden camera footage of. But he was not being he was not trying to be hidden at all. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to prove that the reason why the school board called the police that day, and thankfully enough.
Can we actually talk? Do you mind? What we might do is we might get you to bring that and the video as what you bring next week, because we're out of time for Manitoba. But that sounds like a very interesting thing that I'd love to see. So can you?
Yeah, for sure.
Ready for
yeah,
next
so
week?
I'll just quickly finish this last 2 seconds then,
Okay,
which
cool.
would be
Yeah, please go.
so the latest report was us being able to prove with Brad's footage that he captured there as well too, that this one individual who works for the school board, who has come out as trans, even though of course married with children, but I guess he's ditching all of that, that he was there for the entire meeting and received all kinds of horrible threats and mockery and this, that, and the other thing. And we have all the video evidence that, of course, we broke just a few days ago, that he left the meeting about 15 minutes in, did not return, and received no aggressive anything from anybody there at all. So we're just trying to continue to prove the point here that we have specifically a player in the media, and then some of these individuals working in and around the school boards that, liars is one thing, but it's a little more than that.
For sure. Okay, I'm looking forward to that update next week now. Now, Zahena, what we got for you is I was going to get you to tell me all about your local mayor and all the local stuff with the farmers, but the chat said they want another song by you. So do you mind if I play Don't Break Down or Don't Back Down?
Please do. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, okay. And for that one, I do have a video, so I'll go ahead and play it with the video. So here we go, folks. Don't back down. So, hey, now another one. The chat demanded it, so I have to do it, buddy. I got to do what they say.
Gotta listen.
if we all aim high, we can go all the way. Trapped in the maze, if you need strength, surrender now, walk away, we all can take. Don't back down. 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 We can make it if we all aim high.
I love it. I love it. Oh, where'd you go? There you are. I love it, Zahena. Sorry, you lost you for a second there.
I hit
What'd
the
you
back
think?
button. by mistake.
No problem, no problem. What'd you guys think in the chat? You like that one too? They need a lighter. They got the emoji. They want the lighter emoji going. I think somebody actually burnt their finger. There we go. I burnt my finger, they said. Zahena, you're an amazing artist. Really appreciate it. It's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your music with us. Thank you for letting us play it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Zach on because he's here for Saskatchewan. And you're going to
Thank
pass.
you for all your work.
Oh, please. It's my pleasure. And what you're going to do is you're going to pass the Unity on to Zach. So say thank you or say goodbye to Canada and pass it to Zach.
We'll see you guys. Thanks for having me on again.
Thank you so much, Zahena. And welcome, Zach. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing really good, really good. We're flying through Saskatchewan, through Canada. Now we're in Saskatchewan already. Holy, it's going by quick.
Well, we're usually the flyover province, so I'm glad I'm able to represent.
Or the drive straight through. You really don't have a turn signal. You won't need one. I've been through it a few times. But thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate that. And thank you again for your work yesterday morning on the show. So lots of great feedback about that. And we're going to have you back again on Tuesday. So thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had a couple of people DM me on Twitter about what I was talking about too. So, and some people presenting some other information. So I think I'll be able to kind of bring some more information forward about all of this stuff because it's super. Not only is it interesting to see what's going on there, just because I don't think there's been stuff that like this has happened. Having the political prisoners in the way that we have in probably like in for sure recent memory, but I would say easily over 100 years. Like the first name that comes to mind is Louis Riel, you know. So I mean, when we're seeing all of this stuff happen, it's good that we have people like yourself and tons of other people that are, you know, keeping this on the forefront, because it's easy for things to get forgotten and kind of just, you know, shoved aside, and then these people are rotting in jail for nothing with nobody helping them out.
Yeah, other than Jeremy McKenzie, who was a bit of a political prisoner as well. You're right. It's been a long time since Canada can really point to somebody and say, you know what, that was straight up political. Even Jeremy, you could argue there might have been some stretching of the truth and some hounding him for the charges. But with these four gentlemen, it looks straight up political. So you're right. And that's pretty neat how when you get out and you just start talking about something, people reach out to you and they're like, hey, I got a picture of this. I understand this. Oh, I am familiar with that model. These people start to come out and help. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a friend from the Edmonton area who's in the military, or ex-military, sorry. I messaged him to see if I could get some more his kind of insight on it as well. So I'm really trying to kind of boil down, because there's not a lot of information. They're not releasing any information about the guns, where they came from, who they sourced them from, right? So I think it is important, because that's basically the crux of the argument that could be brought forward in court.
At least the media portion of it for the public to see. Yeah. And you also have a +1. So if you want to bring somebody with you Tuesday, there'll be room.
Sure. Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Okay, cool. So what's going on in Saskatchewan? Last time we talked to you, we had some interesting books there. We had some people with the school board that were not happy. And you also had some students that got in trouble and had the RCMP show up with, these things called guns to let them know that being straight and proud is a hate crime now. Has any of that stuff changed? Have we heard any more news? What's going on? Can you go let us know what's going on in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, there's not on those fronts, not a whole lot of updates. It was being picked up by some larger media outlets. As far as I know, the Post Millennial Club covered the thing that was going on in Swift Current with the straight pride thing, but not a whole lot. And like the really interesting thing here is about whenever we're seeing lots of these things pop up, it's very quick to see how things get scrubbed from the internet. The flashcards that were in the Lumsden school were also, I think, at 3 different schools in British Columbia, but you can't find any source documents for the stuff that was actually presented back at the end of June. So these things keep happening, and conveniently all of the information just gets scrubbed from the internet. It seems pretty easy. So it's getting harder to be able to find that information, find out what's true, so I mean, for anybody listening, if you come across situations like this, start documenting it, because the powers that be are going to try to remove and censor it. So if we have physical documents of this stuff and record, preferably like video, and like Donald said a couple of episodes ago, getting 2 sources, right? So having your cell phone and or even 2 cell phones, because then you have double the evidence, So being a witness and sourcing this stuff is going to be very important and you never know, it could be years down the road when it actually comes to light. But apart from that, those issues, Saskatchewan and Alberta were trending on Twitter over the last couple of days, and
For
it's
good things,
mostly
right?
for good reason, and the tide is kind of shifting as far as the perspective of Western separation. That argument is coming forward again. I think couple of red flags that happened in the last month and over here is Maxime losing in Portage, especially to the margin that he did. I think has some people kind of throwing up some red flags, but even Chris Sky losing down in Toronto, we're just seeing the establishment just steamroll anybody in opposition or any dissident voice. So we're seeing that happen a lot more frequently. I know Danielle Smith has been doing a couple of things that have been a little bit stronger towards Ottawa. I'm still not completely sold on her. We got Scott Moe here as our premier, and I got a text message from the SAS party today, and I don't know how they got my number. But so I got a text message saying that they're doing a free barbecue, and my response was just FYMM. So I really hope that when we see things like this trend on Twitter, it's also representative of the non-internet population. Like I tell lots of people, I pretty much live on Twitter, which is true for lots of people, because it's a very good way to exchange information and keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. But there's a huge blanket section of the population, especially if you're looking at, say, your boomer conservatives, which I have connections with lots of boomer cons, and I say, hey, you guys need to get on Twitter, because what you're telling me happened last week on Twitter. All outrage that you're bringing and say, hey, we need to do something about this. It's like this conversation already took place and you weren't a part of it. So I've been pushing some boomer cons to get on Twitter just to be a part of the conversation and see what's really going on, because it's where information is traded.
You can also push them to the show, and then we can make sure that you're giving the information that you want them to have.
Well, for sure. And my point is in doing that is these people, there's a certain sector of the population that is just willfully blind. They just want they want to sit in their truck, listen to AM radio or trucker tractors and listen to AM radio and kind of just avoid lots of that stuff, or they're still just completely bombarded with the mainstream narrative. So I'm really pushing for some people to kind of get a little bit more aware that way. And then we can have these conversations. So like I said, I really hope that this Western separation movement or ideology that is, obviously was trending on Twitter the other day, I hope that it actually comes through with the general public. That would be my hope. I'm not completely sold on that it would translate over, but that would be my hope, is that all of a sudden people are getting fed up. We're getting another carbon tax thrown at us. We have this grocery rebate, which is going to affect only the people that the Liberals have already basically paved their way for. So we're seeing lots of problems with the federal government, and I'm hoping that enough people step up and say, we're kind of done with this at this point.
Well, that sounds like it's heading the right direction. And what we're seeing in the chat as well, people agree with you. What happens in Twitter a week later, you see it in Facebook and everywhere else. So you're optimistic that if we can get enough people getting into the leading edge information, which is Twitter. And I have this conversation a lot with people because I would get someone asking me, hey, what's going on with your show? I'm like, dude, I put that on Twitter. What's going on with this issue? Again, that's on Twitter. And I want to put it everywhere as well, and I do, but Twitter is absolutely the most interactive one. I'm answering questions there like nowhere else. And absolutely, if we can get more people on the pulse, that would be great. Now, you talked about Mo a bit, and you talked about Saskatchewan Party. Buffalo Party, are they getting any more attention? What's going on with them?
I'm really not too sure. So I've kind of brought this up a couple of times, as we have a couple of by-elections coming up. We don't have any dates slated for them, but I don't know. It's really tough because the Sask parties had some of their candidates already picked long before the elections even announced, and I've heard nothing from the Buffalo Party, nothing from the Sask United Party either, which is the other new party. They're not separatists, so I'm not in any way, shape, or form in support of them. But the Buffalo Party is, but they're sitting on their hands. And if Mark was here, maybe you'd have a little bit of a different story for us. But when we're seeing this type of mentality and seeing the ways that, in my opinion, that the Sask party, the governing party here in Saskatchewan, has been dropping the ball, a party like the Buffalo Party should be foot on the gas 24/7 and being on top of this stuff, and they just aren't. You're not seeing the level of engagement with that. And so that is concerning if we are to have, the big sovereignty question being answered by a political party. So, with these by-elections, I think it would be a really good opportunity, but there hasn't been anything from the Buffalo Party. They sent out an email like 2 months ago saying that they're looking for a candidate, and then it's been crickets ever since. So where they're at with that, I'm not really too sure. And I actually kind of trolled them on Twitter the other day. It didn't get a response, but there was some post talking about the Lumsden Morris riding, which is one of the by-elections that will be coming up here soon. And I said, like, the sleeper party, Buffalo Party, where are you at on this? And there was no response from the Buffalo Party, no conversation after that. So, I mean, if you are looking for a level of engagement, like I said, Twitter is kind of the first place that you're looking for this. But if you're not, sending out emails, having people do calling in the area and stuff like that, like, they just don't have zero engagement. Meanwhile, the establishment is full go, ready to go. So I have a feeling that that's the way that this riding would go, purely for what we're seeing optics wise. I've already got mail outs in my mailbox from the Sask party for their candidate, and the election's not even called. So there's a big disconnect here. And again, it's a smaller party, grassroots. They're not funded nearly as well as the UPC. The Sask United Party, sorry. The Sask United Party is seemingly out of nowhere. So it's really tough and I understand that, to kind of get the ball rolling. But on the same hand, it doesn't take a lot of effort to actually have a presence and have people understand where you are in the riding, the issues that you're talking about. It doesn't take a whole lot to do that, and I think that would go a long way, rather than just kind of being in the backbench. Is that what we're going to expect from the Buffalo Party? If they were to actually get a seat, is there just going to be backbenchers? That's not helping. We need dissident voices. We need people that are speaking out and pushing hard.
Could you see a unity of all these parties coming together at some point, just to have a better one? Or
no, not at all. No.
Fractured?
Yeah. So the Sask United Party, which one big question that I had from the start, because I attended their convention, was who's funding this. They have a lot of very similar messaging to the Conservative Party of Canada. They are not. They have, and I brought this up when we were having when we were in like the breakout rooms and stuff like that. I said, like, separation needs to be priority number one, and they said, like, we're not a separatist party. Like, that is not us. So with the Buffalo Party stance on that alone, I think would be it'd be next to impossible. The Sask United Party is, however, going at, so we have another conservative party. There's like 4 or 5 conservative parties in Saskatchewan, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
From what I understand, the Sask Conservative Party has over $2 million in a bank account, and they have essentially no leadership. They have no structure, no MPs, like literally nothing. It's just a bank account with a bunch of money and like a couple thousand votes come election time. Sask United is apparently trying to merge with them to be able to get the bankroll again to kind of have more sway that way. Money and low information voters win elections. So if we're looking at it that way, that's obviously a strategy for what they're doing. But when again, a party like the Buffalo Party, which has the hard stance, which is correct on all of the issues, the Sask United is basically the middle ground. They're going to go into any election coming up here. We have one in 24, but they're going to go, we're not the Sask Party, vote for us, which sounds a lot like the National Conservatives saying, we're not the Liberals, we're not the NDP, vote for us. They're not offering anything different from what the establishment is. They're just saying we're not them, and I don't think that's a good way to go. But again, I think tragically, low information voters will be able to steer the ship.
Okay, cool. And I just found out I don't have anybody for BC, so we can extend a little bit here with Granny next.
Sure.
So if you don't mind, I have Granny who's waiting in the lobby. We're ready for Saskatchewan, and then I might bring you back after Granny if that's cool with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and I also see Kevin in the lobby. Kevin, I might bring you back as well to finish up for BC. So let me say good. Actually, I'll bring Granny on. Hello, Granny. There you are.
Hi.
I'm really getting used to seeing your face on this screen. I like it.
I know.
It.
I'm originally from Saskatchewan, born and raised by outside of Kindersley.
Okay.
I was born in northern Manitoba, but I did a lot of years in Saskatoon. So look at this, a Saskatchewan reunion right here.
Great province.
Awesome.
Great
Being
province.
from Saskatchewan, and I have tons of family that have moved from Saskatchewan as well. It's like no matter where you go, the Saskatchewan blood is present in so many people because you either lived there, you had a stint there because you had a job, or maybe went to school, or your parents were from there, or you actually lived there during your youth, and they kind of jetted everywhere. So it's like Saskatchewan is probably the most represented province for people that don't actually live in Saskatchewan.
Is that because we grew up there and then we go out and we spread that love around the world and that's our mission?
Well, I know for lots of the people that I know that grew up here, is just like greener shores elsewhere, mostly Alberta. If you ever go to a Stamps game or a Eskimos game, I'm not going to use their stupid new name, but if you go to an Eskimos game, you're going to see, and the Riders are in town, you're going to see at least half the crowd with green shirts.
Yep.
So we have hometown advantage in both Calgary and Edmonton sometimes.
That's awesome. And yeah, I love the Rough Riders. They were a good team to watch. I grew up with them as well. That's cool. Well, thank you very much, Zach. So the theme to this week is unity. And I guess we're not going to be unifying any of the political parties in Saskatchewan today. No, but at least you're going to be able to unify around the school boards and try and get some assistance there and try and get parents to go ahead and get involved in school boards. So that's some good news, because you guys definitely had the headlines in the last couple of weeks around that. So hopefully that'll be clearing up. So we'll go ahead and throw it over to Granny, and then we'll get started on Alberta.
Okay, Granny, take it away from Alberta here.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Take care, Zach. And we'll get the Alberta flag up here in a moment or two. There it is. Look at that magic. TV magic, right, Granny?
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Hello. So welcome to the Great Canadian Relay, where we start in Nova Scotia, work our way across, passing the message. And this week it's unity. Last week it was trust, and I can't even remember what the other one was, probably memory. But this week it's unity. And this is something we are working on every single morning. So we got unified accidentally or divine intervention or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Some guy over in Toronto, some guy over in the bush, and then you, wherever you're at, came together and we created a show. And we did this around the unity of four men who didn't know each other really. Well, a couple of them knew each other, but the rest of them didn't really know each other. But now they're also unified as well. So I think it's only fitting that we had you on this week to talk a bit about what we're doing in the mornings and why this is so important to you.
Well, we definitely did rally around four men. I keep telling the men, I talk to them every day, some every second day, but mostly I talk to them all the time. And Chris, Jerry, Tony, and Chris are our Alberta political prisoners. And I tell them all the time that you may not have been seen at the start of your journey when you entered the remand centers, but the people of Canada are coming to your to find you, I guess is a better way to say it. They're looking for you now. they see you. I say, people see you all the time now. I get messages on cards and envelopes. Tell them we see them. Because at the start, they didn't have anybody outside of immediate family and some friends. And now the love that's outpouring for these 4 men, and the country is coming together. And I mean, from East Coast to West Coast, I get messages and the Netherlands, Australia, Portugal. Like, I mean, everybody is reaching out. We got a donation from Tennessee yesterday.
Nice.
The Americans are talking. There's 2 podcasts that I've been down in the States. There's an article about to be wrote down there. So the men are being seen. And I always say to everybody, everybody says, oh, I'm just one person. I'm just a grandma. I'm one grandma out there that came to find 4 men and speak up for them. I'm the grandma that went to Ottawa. I saw the lies from the government, media, and unfortunately the police. And if there's lies there, there's lies in Coots. And these men deserve due process, which they have not had because they've been in the remand centers for 507 days. That's a long time in a place that you're supposed to transition in, transition out. There's nothing to do. They have not been on grass in 507 days. They've lived in a concrete jungle. Their skin is discolored because they have not seen the sun. I could go on and on about these men, but you best tune in at 6 a.m. to when we do have a proper conversation about these 4 men. And what I'm here to talk about right now is if you want to unite around these 4 men, there is a court date coming up of a pretrial on July 25th. That's a Tuesday. Now, you must check out the Alberta Political Prisoner page the night before and the morning of. Things can change hour by hour. There's things going on in real time that we do not see because stuff is going on. That's how lawyers work. Times can change. Days can change. Somebody could get sick. We've had it all. So if you plan on coming on July 25th to the Lethbridge Courthouse to see these 4 men, please wear white. Please be respectful. We don't want any yelling. You get people to listen when you talk in a normal voice. You yell, they'll turn their head. They won't listen to you. We ask people come and stand together. The last time we stood together, we had a prayer. We sung some hymns. I also told the men at 9 a.m., I want you to visualize that there's a sea of white outside standing together for you guys. And we'll do it again on July 25th. There's something extra that's going to happen on the 25th. We have no idea what it means, but something different is happening, and it's not about our 4 men. So I think it's a good idea. We get eyes on what's going on because they can't hide if there's hundreds of eyes watching them and seeing what's going on. Unfortunately, only 85 can get into the courthouse, and currently we're allowed in. And again, we don't know until we get there what's going to go on. But it's important to show up. I've had people drive 7 hours to come down and see these men stand with each other. 7 hours is a small price to pay to come and stand for 4 men that are standing up for our rights and freedoms. So you may think it's a long drive. Try 507 days in a remand center compared to 7 hours.
100%.
I take the 7 hours in a heartbeat. So
In a heartbeat. And I will be there. So we'll be driving down. We will be there. We'll be broadcasting from 6 a.m. right from the courtroom steps. And there's only room for 63 people or 83 people because you and I will get in there. So there's room for 83 other people.
Squeeze tight. Tight.
Yeah, because I got to be there. I want to hear the legalese. I want to hear what they're talking about. To me, it's not Greek. It's not crazy to me. I understand what they're talking about. So I definitely want to get in there and be able to report back on some of that.
Yeah.
But Granny, that was an amazing message. And you're right. This is not a protest. Okay, we're there to support each other and the men. There'll probably be some family and friends there as well. So
there's people there with conditions, and they can't have a rally, they can't have a protest, no speakers. No. Somebody talked about having a convoy. I went, whoa. That's still something they can't. And they said, oh, we're just going to carpool. Okay, that works.
Carpool is fine, but don't make a bunch of flags and 5 or
No.
10 cars or something. Yeah,
No.
there's actually, I think there are convoy rules or parade rules. I think it's something like 4 vehicles or more. You might even need a permit. But in either case, no, we're going to church. We're going to go have a picnic. We're going to sit in front of the courthouse. If there's more than 85 people, some people hang out outside. That's all fine.
It's
That's all
nice
fine.
to come together. Like I said, there was probably 200 of us outside while the 85 was inside. We drank coffee, we talked, we hugged, and we shared stories because you know what? We do have stories. There's still stories out there. There's still things happening, and they feel the love. I know they do, and it's good for the family, like the family of the 4 men, to see people coming together for their man. You know.
Well, you've had a good couple weeks now, so the donations have gone up. It seems like people are paying attention. You had a great time at the Whistle Stop. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what the Whistle Stop was?
Oh wow, the Whistle Stop. That was. I'm used to getting recognized a little bit. It's usually when people hear my voice because they hear my voice more than I have a hat on or something. They might not recognize me. But oh my gosh, it was overwhelming. And I am the surrogate to the 4 men. So every time they hugged me or talked to me, they gave me donations. I'm that person for the 4 men. So I share all the love with them. I tell them about all the messages. I try to share. I keep forgetting about the song. I got to write that note down that there was a song wrote for them. We're talking about a demolition derby and maybe having a car in the demolition derby. We're getting out around people that don't normally talk about these guys or see them. And the bumper stickers, we got bumper stickers, like 1,500 bumper stickers out there raising awareness for the guys. So anything helps. Hit the share button, share this video, share the morning video. But the power of sharing makes a big difference. And like I said, the donations I talked about, some people think $5, $10 doesn't make a difference. If you do the math and you times it by 10,000, that's a lot of money. So do not underestimate the power of $5 or $10. Some people don't think, well, it's just $10. 10 times 10,000 is a lot of money. So we just have to keep it simple and don't make it so difficult and don't overthink it. Again, write them in. You can go to Alberta Political Prisoners. Jerry's been transferred back to Calgary now.
Right.
Tony's still in Lethbridge. We don't know if he'll be transferred. I think he's quite content to stay where he is because he's struggling with gut health. And it's easier if he just stays put. So he's trying to stay put, I think. But write them in. Send them a message. Tell them you see them. And share some news with them because they only get CTV, CBC, and Global. So I know.
It just got worse for them. Oh no, sorry.
Oh, I know. So I always say, people say, well, what do I write about? I said, anything. Write about your granddaughter's kindergarten graduation, whatever it is, write about it, share it with them. They just love hearing anything. Chris Carver just phoned a short while ago, and he told me a 7-year-old little girl mailed him a letter, and she says, I'm going to get you out of jail. I'm selling stickers, and I'm going to get you out of jail. And I thought, there, he's already made a difference in a 7-year-old's life. So these are the things that are important. And that letter meant, and she drew a drawing for him of him and his children. So that'll be up on his wall for him to see.
And we're making some headway here. So we're actually looking at the evidence. We're having conversations with people, and we have a special guest tomorrow that you're excited about.
Oh,
right. So Rick Abbott, the ex-police sergeant, staff sergeant for the Edmonton Police, who got in trouble for going down and providing good, useful information to stay peaceful and continue to do that message. And he was also vaxxed, but he didn't want to explain his condition, his situation, his medical health status, and he ended up getting fired for all that. Now, he's somebody that you have a video of on your YouTube page, so you know who he is and his involvement. So why don't you go tell everybody what you're looking forward to for tomorrow? What is it you want to speak to him
tomorrow, because I did share that video of him because he spoke about going down to Milk River and what he saw. And he saw a sea of teeth when he entered Milk River, everybody smiling and barbecues and pony rides and bouncy castles. And he said the energy was beautiful. It wasn't what he was being led to believe on mainstream media. And then he needed to get down to Coots, and he didn't know how to get down there because roads are blocked, etc. So a very nice gentleman, one of the 4 men, actually took him down there. He had a hug from this guy. They had pictures. I talked to Chris Lysick tonight. He even knew who he was. And that gentleman said there was nothing nefarious going on in that room or in that area.
Correct.
So that's pretty powerful from a man that does that for a living. So
Correct. And if you watch the video from his testimony from NCI, he actually goes into the detail of risk assessment and stuff like that and what he was using for his risk assessment. And he realized very quickly that there was a lot of weirdness going on. They were being very demanding. They were being putting people in duress, threatening to fire. They had a shame room. I guess we'll find out what the shame room is at the Edmonton Police.
Goodness.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I'm really looking.
Yeah, really forward to it as well. And again, that's another little divine intervention there because Donald knew him prior to this already. So it was like, wow, one phone call. I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
It's been a cool journey, and I'm glad we're at this part of the journey now.
Yeah, so that's going to be tomorrow where we will meet Rick Abbott. But what's happening on Friday? Do we have anything special going on Friday?
Friday is Family and Friends Day, and I will be talking to the like Jacqueline, Jerry's wife, plans on coming on. I'll talk to one of Tony's friends to see if she can come on with Tessie. And I'm not sure about the Lysicks. I'll see who can attend for that. I know his dad's a bit shy. He's a wonderful man, but it's not his thing. This is not what they do.
No, so, they wanted to enjoy their lives, get on in Alberta back country. Like, we're not normally like this. We don't want to be out in the public.
No, and Chris Carbert's mom, if she's back, she's out camping with 8 grandchildren right at the moment. So I'll see if she's back. She would be glad to tell the story about her son. That's the part that people missed. You know, you see the headlines, they make it sound very scary, but these are 4 family men. You got 2 single fathers, a husband, father, and an only child to an 80-year-old mother. That's who they are. That's exactly who they are. And when they got arrested, they were more worried about trying to let their family know where they were, because they knew they would be worried, because they talked to their family every day and then they just disappeared. And they've been behind glass and locked up ever since. So it'll be good to hear from the family. It gives them like a realness, like they're flesh and blood. These are normal family men. They're just Albertans. That and I don't say this to be rude. There's nothing special about them. They're just normal guys. And
you're absolutely right.
So
yeah, you're not being rude at all, because we all want to just have our lives. We don't want to be in the spotlight, famous or infamous or otherwise.
No, they don't really want their lives under a microscope either, but they don't have any choice right now. Like, this is it. Like, every detail of their life is under a microscope, and I can't imagine all of a sudden. But what I've found is they're 4 very nice men. Like I said, I would have any one of them as my family, and I probably will have them as my family for the rest of my days.
They are now.
And I'm happy about that. Like, I feel very blessed. They keep thanking me, and I'm actually the honored one, that somehow I became their voice, and I extend them to everybody out there. You know, Jerry listened to 2 songs. He says, can you share my songs? Tell people to listen to the words or his drawings. And I share the guys all the time. And even with them being in the remand, there are some funny stories that they have lived. And that we need to keep our eye on the joy that we can find and the laughter that we can find. You have no idea what it feels like when I'm talking with them and I actually hear them giggle. Like, I know they're in a remand, but I've also heard them cry. So I'll take the giggles over the tears any day, but I'm there for them when they do cry. So,
but the last 2 weeks, you've been having nicer phone calls with them, and their spirits are staying up.
Yeah, they're hopeful. Everybody's hopeful with whatever's going on. You know, with the Crown, the RCMP, and whatever's happening in that courtroom. Let's pray that it's going to do something positive for these men, because I've said it from day one. Miracles do happen.
Yeah.
And you just never know. Never say never. We never saw a convoy going to Ottawa, so never say never. I do believe miracles can happen, and I've talked to the screen before. I know the whistleblowers are out there. I know they watch me, and I know they have a conscience, and I know it's hurting them, but they can help. They just have to step up. You'll survive. You will.
And that's another reason why we should keep talking, because if the whistleblowers are hearing it and there's support from even us as a community, that may help them take that step forward. So hopefully that will assist them as well. Well, that's awesome. So I'm excited about that. Now, for the people who don't know about this story, go catch up on Monday's episode if you want to understand what happened in court last week on Thursday. It's pretty important. There's some breaking information there. Check out Tuesday, where you'll see Zach, who went through the guns with us. And now you're talking about the guy's life are under a microscope. We were zooming in like a microscope on those guns. So yeah, we're looking at all of these details. And then today we were going over the video of the press release, with a press conference from the RCMP officer who has a big Pinocchio nose. She did nothing but lie. There were birds sitting on it. There was a big nose she had.
And unbelievable. Like, and that's what I say. February 14th, right after, and all 4 of them were arrested separately. They make it sound like they were huddled in a corner somewhere.
Correct.
One was arrested at 9:30 at night, one at 10:30 at night, one at midnight at night, one in the next day in the afternoon, not even anywhere near Coots. So people have led to believe something, and part of this press release was part of it. And if I can figure out the lie, and I wasn't even at Coots, and I found the lies, and you saw the lies with what you saw today, so if there's a lie right on February 14th from day one, there's more.
For sure. And we had the benefit of hindsight on this one now. So we got to listen to that recording, but we also had the POEC census recording. We've had all the information come out there. So we were able to validate or show that, no, that particular narrative has been proven invalid, or the actual real story was this. We got it from the POEC. So if you watch that press release or that press conference, it's all lies, because all of those have been proven to not be the case anymore.
I would love to have somebody watch her body language. Those people that can come in and they can see how they're twitching and doing whatever. And I'm thinking there's a whole lot of twitching going on there. She did not look comfortable at all.
There was people on my Twitter that said exactly that. They said that they were watching the body language of her, and she was very uncomfortable. She was not comfortable with even what she was saying. And you could see that.
Yeah. It's easier to tell the truth, because the truth just flows out. You don't have to remember anything. You just say it. And we teach our children that. I teach my grandsons that. You got to remember a lie, but you never need to remember the truth. And so when you're asked a question, it just comes out naturally. That's why I never have to prep for anything, because everything I know, I've seen, I've learned, I've done my homework, and it just comes out of me. And I won't stop talking.
I know, and that's why we have you on for an hour every day for all weekdays. So we'll get you 5 hours of talking out, and we'll use.
It's lucky I'm an early riser. I get up every morning at 5 a.m. So honestly, 6 works for me. So
me too. Yeah, I'm an early bird too. I got so much to do during the day. That is the latest of the morning I can give. So I'm glad it works for a lot of people. Now, there was one question in the chat: where can they get your bumper stickers?
Okay, just if you go to grannymackay.ca. The bumper stickers are there, and it'll tell you how to order. You basically email grannymackay@protonmail.com, and you just tell me what you want, and then I shoot you an email back, and then I tell you how to where to e-transfer, and it's the same everything. Granny Mackay at protonmail.com. So.
So we'll add that to the sticker starting tomorrow, so that we can say contact Granny for bumper stickers and keychains, that kind of thing.
The bumper stickers are important. There was a lady in Carstairs the other day. She didn't know about the 4-man, but she saw the bumper sticker and went, "What is that?" And conversations are started over that bumper sticker. And again, I always say, innocent until proven guilty. That's the justice system is supposed to work that way. It's not presumed guilty and sentenced. That's not how this is supposed to work. So even if somebody says, "Oh, throw the keys away," whoa, there's a process, and they're not following the process. And I say it all the time, and I get myself in a little bit of trouble when I say it. Danielle Smith is the boss of this province. I'm not asking her to wave a magic wand and interfere. I'm asking her to make sure there's people doing their jobs properly, because I don't think they're doing their jobs properly. Otherwise, these men would not be in there for 507 days. That's not how a remand jail works. And somebody's not overseeing the process.
100%. And we actually got that information from Pastor Snowy, who works in a remand center. Remand center is supposed to be like 30 days or so, because you're either going to go home or you're going to go to the next stage. It's like purgatory, but they're stuck there. And as he was explaining to us, and you kind of alluded to it, it's not set up for long term at all.
No,
Like
it's
they
not.
don't even have, they don't even have a mission or anything like that in there, because it's meant to be short term.
And the cards
it's
are
not-
actually what really pulled them through. When the cards started coming in, it shut down the mailroom at Lethbridge Remand Center. Chris had to go up and sort it all out because it just, boom, all this mail came in. So I do ask people, please continue to write them. Jerry's now in Calgary, but Tony, Chris, and Chris are in Lethbridge. Now, when you find it, it will say Tony's in Medicine Hat, but that's because that's where his regular place is. And we don't know he's not going back yet. So far, he's still in Lethbridge.
Okay. So we'll keep getting information out. And when you watch our show, the ticker has their number that will be needed for this as well.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Granny. I really like seeing you. And I get to see you again in like 12 hours. That's awesome.
And we start all over again. And like I said,
Yeah.
we just keep walking forward. And I always say that you can walk with me, you can walk behind me. Just keep walking. That's all I ask.
Absolutely. One foot in front of the other. And then Miss Kitty's asking what time. So court starts at 9?
Well, typically it does start at 10, but it has started at 9. And then they've also had it start at 1:30 in the afternoon. So when I know, I will blast it out everywhere. When I know for sure. And it probably won't be until right before. But again, before you go to bed, look at the Alberta Political Prisoners page to see if there's an update. When you wake up in the morning, check again. And the worst thing that happens, you end up with a bunch of people and you have a coffee. So
I'll be there, so we'll get you on the stream too, and we'll get some granny hugs handed out.
Oh yeah, I've always got hugs. And usually always drinking coffee too. So
yeah, well, that's worth the 7 hours. A granny hug and a coffee. It's worth it. So we'll see you all there.
All in.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Granny. We'll see you in the morning.
Okay, love everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Send our love to the men too. Okay.
I will. I'll tell them about the show. Okay.
Thank you very
Good
much.
night.
Bye, Granny. I have a granny in Alberta now. It's awesome. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Zach. So we're going to fill in the time for BC. I just got a note from someone in BC who's in my chat right now that said you can count on me next time. So next time we will have a lot more conversation in BC. So thank you very much to Isle and Jason for that. And just for a quick moment for just Isle and Jason, I agree with you here, buddy. I really hope they don't name a horrible disease Jason. I agree with you. Okay, let's keep that name. Okay, ISIS and COVID, those names were taken. Let's hopefully they don't do anything Jason. That'd be great. Hey, welcome back, Zach, and welcome back, Kevin. And we don't need the Canadian flag. Let's do the BC flag there, flag person. We'll still give some props to BC.
Let's do the libertarian flag that Zach is flying in the background.
I should put that in here, or the diagonal on. All right.
Yeah.
I put the diagonal on. Which way does it go? It goes one of the ways.
Or the ANCAP flag. The ANCAP flag is keeping it pretty real.
Okay, cool. So what we want to do, though, is we're going to talk a bit about BC. So do you guys know anything about BC and what's going on, other than they don't have anybody for the podcast tonight?
Well, I heard that there's one of the people that were pushing the safe drug use just OD'd.
Oh, that's unfortunate. So somebody who actually the advocate pushing for this, they themselves have OD'd.
Yeah, I didn't read too much into the article, but basically, there was someone who was one of the advocates for using safe, like whatever the new drug legislation is. Someone who is pushing that has OD'd and died from use. The cause of death I don't think was out there yet, other than it was an overdose. And I don't know if that's a backfire or kind of a proof that things are going wrong in BC. BC's got tons of problems because it's kind of the leftist. It's the left coast, right? We got Ontario and its problems, but BC is kind of a beast of its own.
So one thing, Zach, I want to ask you, because you're a libertarian and you feel that government should not be involved in stuff like this. What are your views on drugs and legality or illegality when it comes to the government?
My end result is zero government whatsoever. And that goes right across the board. So no legislation whatsoever on drugs, prostitution, strip clubs, like anything. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't want the government to regulate any of it. The problem that we're seeing, and this isn't just symptomatic of that point of view, is we have a serious culture problem that we haven't solved yet. So to be able to have the conversation about even something that I would support is defunding the police, we have to be able to have something to be able to take its place that would be a net positive. And right now, culturally, we're so divided. We're bringing in so many cultures from outside of Canada that is kind of adding problems to the mix as well. We don't have a homogenous society. We don't have a centralized ideology that we can all kind of get behind. So until we solve our cultural problems, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have the type of deregulation that I would like to see, even steps towards that direction, because we can't decide even within our provinces what is going to be good, let alone right across the country. So those are kind of the problems that I see. But as far as what I would personally say is completely deregulated. The big problem specifically around the drugs is we have a socialized medical system. So normally I would just say let the free market decide, and you might have some people that have problems with it, overdose and die, and that's unfortunate. You can't save everybody. But when all of a sudden you're sticking the bill with the false or the faults and the problems within society among people that are doing the right thing, I have a big problem with that. So like I said, there has to be certain steps that we need to be able to take towards before we can even have that conversation.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I agree with. In order to decriminalize drugs, not legalize, but decriminalize, we have to abolish the universal healthcare system, within society. You can't have one without the other.
Okay, so what would you replace it with? And like, what would we do? We just have private? What would we do with healthcare?
Well, the government is free to, offer a service, but what they're not allowed to do is to, try to make competition illegal, and that's really what they've done. So if they really want to, compete in the free market, they have the ability to do that, but at least allow competition to offer something else. So and the reason why they don't want to do that is because they know that their product is so inferior, and they would be they would be crushed, right? So if there was free market competition, and government didn't have the ability to control this, they would ultimately they would be destroyed. So the real solution is to open up the market and let the people make the decision as to who should I give my dollars to in terms of healthcare, right? Same thing as who should I give my dollars to in terms of anything, right? At the end of the day, the last person I want to give my dollars to is to the government, and the free market always does a better job, way more efficiently. So that's the reason why that they don't want competition, is because they know that they're going to be beat so badly.
Well, that's the part I don't understand, because from a public standpoint, a public service standpoint, if you were able to get a market to come in and then your service got crushed, as you keep saying, that's actually a good thing and that positive for society, because that means the other services are good enough as handling everything. In fact, you should, as a government, if you're going to provide a service because it's needed and the market doesn't provide it, you should want it to replace you. That should be the end goal, is you want it to be crushed in the market, because then you don't have to provide that service anymore. Now, why do you think they don't have that mentality, Zach? Do you think that this is part of control, why they don't want healthcare to be, go through some sort of a transition of private to hybrid to the point where we don't need the public? Is it for control, or do they just simply like helping people get better?
Well, I'll address what you just mentioned before. I have a bunch of people, just because I'm so close to Regina, I have a bunch of people that work within the basically work for the government, between education, corrections, whatever the case may be. I always say that the number one goal of any government worker should make their job to make their job irrelevant. And nobody in government actually shares that thing or that sentiment, because they're so focused on getting their big union checks and their union protection and all of that stuff. So that is one thing I do see as a problem. And when you spend any time in the private market, you definitely see a different mentality in the workers. They're willing to put in extra work. They're willing to take lower wages. They're willing to do this. And the government is able to force them out because of essentially wage control through the use of unions, right? When you have a receptionist making $18 to $22 an hour, how can anybody how can any business compete with the government specifically on wages when that is an entry-level position that you might have a teenager do, answering phones and whatnot, and pay them minimum wage, right? So even those things are contributing factors. Now, Canada specifically has 14 times as many admin staff in the healthcare system as Germany, which is a very similar size in aggregate, not landmass. But so we have 14 times as much bureaucracy as another similar nation. That's a big problem. Now, as far as what they want, if you can control people's health, their food, and the money, you control everything about them.
Right.
Okay.
The human security pyramid, right?
100%. So they don't want us to have competition in the marketplace. They don't want us to be able to even look at something as the dairy cartel. Ending the dairy cartel would be able to have us get milk products and dairy products from the United States, which would reduce the costs, right? So they don't want any of that. The government is always about control. The state wants more control wholeheartedly. They're going to do everything in their ability to be able to maintain that power. Now, is there ways that we could do that? Through legislation, absolutely. The Buffalo Party wants to remove a single payer system here in Saskatchewan, right? And I'm sure that there'd be other parties across Canada that would want to do that. The problem is that people think healthcare is free. They don't understand that anything that the government gives you for free, even these new handouts that Trudeau is giving out, that comes from the taxpayers. It's not government funded, it's taxpayer funded. So, if you want to take some time, go get a job at the city of Regina or your whatever local city that you live in. Get a job there, spend even a week on the job site. I have experience in this. Spend a week on the job site with any type of city crew, and you will understand how unbelievable the amount of wasted tax money is just on the labor side, not to mention any of the resource side, or the road crews that literally they'll tear up a road, have an entire block taken out, and then they won't do anything on it for a month. There's wasted resources. So if we're able to privatize and start that, it could have a little chain reaction, and the government would have to relinquish control, and that scares them.
And that's one of the things about the left side. They like to have social programs. They like to have spending by the government. But when we do things like we have that court case in Alberta, 10.5 million for that vaccine injury claim, I'm getting a lot of people going on Twitter saying, hey, can't we spend that money better? Why should we taxpayers pay for this? It's not the taxpayers' fault. The government did something wrong, yada, yada, yada. So when it comes to getting social programs, they're very liberal. But when it comes to providing assistance to somebody who got hurt by the government themselves, they all of a sudden want to have tight purse strings. Now, Kev, this is something you talk about a lot, which is to get rid of social welfare and all that kind of stuff, because that just attracts the wrong people to the country and it doesn't help people move along. So what do you say to the people out there who want social programs, they want everything covered, but yet when somebody actually needs assistance from the government for the damage that was did, they want to stand up and say, hey, let's think about the taxpayers here. So there's a bit of a double standard there.
Like I understand the idea behind like social welfare and whatnot, and I do understand that some people genuinely need it, right? But at the end of the day, people would be far more ahead of the curve if that social program wasn't funded and there to begin with, right? Because the cost in society to keep that program afloat really brings the whole of society down. So if we take a look at healthcare, right, it costs $350 billion a year to fund. That's a lot more than free. And if you break it down, that works out to be like $9,000 per man, woman, and child per year. And if I lived in the United States, right, and I could get a healthcare plan for almost half of that price, and I could get a gym membership that went along with it, because they really try to promote healthy living when it comes to yeah, when it comes to healthcare, in privatized healthcare. But what we're doing in between comparing Canada and the United States, right, is we're comparing a monopoly to an oligopoly, right? So you have, a bunch of corporations controlling healthcare versus the government controlling healthcare. And, the only thing worse than an oligopoly is a monopoly, right? So both systems are not good. And that's why, we get into the trap, right? Oh, America this and America that. But there's far more, beneficial systems that offer this type of service. Look at Sweden, right? They had a monopoly on healthcare, and their healthcare system collapsed, and it forced them to bring in a two-tier system, right? And what that did was it really drove down the costs on the government, and it really improved healthcare times, and it allowed for advancement of technology, just because there was competition in the marketplace. So when you talk about these social safety nets, right, it's hard to say yeah, sure, I'll support this, or no, I won't support that. But at the end of the day, if there was no social safety nets, but people are able to keep 100% of the income that they made, they would be far more ahead than funding something that they may or may not have to use in the first place.
Yeah, and back in the day, before government was doing stuff like this, it was a church, it was a community, it was your neighbor. We took care of each other. So if there was somebody that needed an extra hand, or was in between work, or whatever, the family was dealing with illness, the community would come together on those issues. Now, what I'm going to do is I got to wrap up. Yukon's here. So look at this, Yukon Dan and Melissa Lauchi. I'll get your name eventually, Melissa. But they're here now. So Zach, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pass the unity baton over to Yukon Dan of the Yukon, and kind of wrap up with how this conversation kind of could unify Canada in a bit. I know we're talking about anarchy, we're talking about separation, but even that can be unified for the people who are in that part.
Mm-hmm. So my home province of Saskatchewan, just down the road from where I'm at, there's a small city called Weyburn, Saskatchewan, and that was the birthplace of Tommy Douglas. Tommy Douglas was there's a thing way back when that said who's the greatest Canadian, and it was Tommy Douglas. There's statues of him, buildings named across Saskatchewan for Tommy Douglas. And one of the most unifying things that so many people say is our healthcare. And that was all brought forth by Tommy Douglas, who's a socialist from Saskatchewan. So if someone from Saskatchewan can say, hey, we should maybe look towards something else that could also unify us, I think there's lots of things. I do really like the Yukon mentality. I think you got lots of wilderness up there, lots of beautiful sites. I haven't been there personally. I know some people that have been. So I'm excited to hear from the people up in Yukon. So I'll let you guys take it away and see if we can find some form of unity here.
Thank you very much, Zach. I appreciate that. And thanks for pitch hitting for BC. And I just got confirmation from Chris Erickson. He's going to make it next time. And then we also got Island Jason from BC. He said he's going to chip in as well. So we should have a full plate again next week. Thank you very much, Zach. Thank you very much, Kevin. Appreciate it a lot. And then hello, Yukon Dan. You got muted. And we got the Yukon flag up. So if you go ahead and unmute. Yeah, it's muted on your side, Dan. You have to unmute. We may have lost them. They're not moving anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for a bit, and maybe they'll come back. It looks like we lost a connection. Oh, they're moving again. Do you have your mic on? There you go. We got you. Yes. Yes. We're up in the Yukon now.
We were on the Wi-Fi, and then it was just a little too choppy today, so... But we figured it out. How are you?
Well, I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm not sure if you can see, but we got the Yukon flag up there for you. So look, we're representing and we're ready to go. Look at that. Yeah. And what you're going to do is I was talking to Dan earlier today. You guys are going to give us an update for the Northwest Territories and Nunavut as well. So that's exciting. So we'll be able to get all of the territory news in today. So how you been, Melissa?
Dan is the expert on the North. I'm just representing more or less, well, most of Canada and like jobless jobs. But
yeah. So what we'll do?
I'm here to be educated too. Like Dan's the right guy.
For sure. And
the Yukon.
Yeah,
Jason.
and we'll go ahead, Dan. There's a small pause, so I'll wait a little bit longer before I speak. Go ahead, Dan.
I can speak about the Yukon, but that's as far as it goes.
Okay, so you don't have anything for the Northwest Territories or Nunavut for me today?
No, I'm in the
Okay,
Yukon.
no, I get that, Dan. Okay, so maybe there's confusion in our messages earlier today when I asked you to do that. But for next week, maybe Melissa, you could give us a hand and just grab a headline or two from each of those other territories to just let us know what's going on, so we can kind of include them. That would be awesome.
Okay.
Sure, awesome. But for today, well, then you're all ready to go for the Yukon. So you got the news for the Yukon. So go ahead, Dan. Let's have it. What's it looking like up there?
Well, the Yukon is it's tourist season, so there's lots of people coming in, pouring in. There always is. Americans going to Alaska, coming through the Yukon. So the parks are always full. Lots of tourists spending lots of money. It's good for the economy.
Yeah.
But you wanted the politics of the Yukon. It's like a two-party system.
Mm-hmm.
The only three parties have been, like lately, the Yukon Party, the Liberal Party, and the NDP. In the last election, it was a tie, 8 seats each. There's 19 seats, 8 each for the Yukon Party and the Liberals. And the NDP, like the Federals, sided with the Liberal Party. So that's the coalition that's ruling us.
Okay. And how long have they been in power, and when's the next election for you?
It's been in power for 2 years. So the next election is 2025. There is a fourth party that started up, a friend of mine named Joseph Zelezny, and he ran for the PPC in 2019.
Okay.
He's got PPC values. I haven't talked to him too much lately. He's kind of scarce, but his party is getting off the ground anyways.
Okay, and how is the support for him out there? Do you know how he did last time, or did he not? Did he run last time?
No, it wasn't ready for the 2021 election. But in 2019, for the federal election, him being the PPC candidate, he was like last place.
Mm-hmm.
PPC was not very popular up here because they want the party that's going to bring the most payments, transfer payments.
Right. So it's very socialist. They want to be receiving money, and that's not going to be the PPC.
That's it. 100%. Yeah.
Right. And what about other issues that PPC support, like gender ideology and other social programs, by cutting them, and immigration? Are those hot topics there? And if so, which way does Yukon lean for that?
Well, the Yukon has a lot of immigrants. A lot.
Yeah, that's true.
There's
surprisingly so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in the Yukon, 1 year less to become a Canadian citizen. I've heard that.
Oh, really?
It's also
some sort of incentive.
It's an incentive, yeah.
Easiest and cheapest place to get your Class 1 also. If ever you want to be a Class 1 driver, come up here, get it done here.
Yeah, so I guess they're trying to incentivize people to come up there and get things done and help, I guess, the economy as well. Because it's difficult to get good talent to come up there because it's a harsh living environment and it can be expensive on things.
Right. Yeah, the cost of living is really high. Rents aren't that much cheaper, maybe the same as BC. Like
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. It's comparable to Vancouver, I would say.
Okay, and do you have this drug problem there as well, like Vancouver, or is it a little bit better up there?
No. And they are giving out free drugs too. Harm reduction.
Right. And are you having overdoses? Are you having problems like that?
Yep. I think per capita we were pretty close to BC at one point.
It's crazy how there's two places running for first place there. That's insane.
Yeah.
So you're up neck and neck with BC on your death rates for overdoses?
It was that way for a time when they were last reporting it that I saw.
Okay. And then Melissa, why don't you go ahead and update us about your couple ventures? You have a couple things you're working on there, right? You have the Jobless Jobs or Jab Jobs or something like that?
Yeah, so there's joblessjobs.work. And I mean, there's not so much to update. I mean, we're just working on the development of getting the job board onto gooseandmaple.com. But I can give a little story of some hope today, because
Please do, because we're doing unity and hope will fit right into that. Because we'd like to finish off with a little bit of hope. So that sounds lovely. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it definitely has to do with unity and just organizing and coming together. So George, at the minute, he's in Eagle Plains right now. I don't know if you're familiar with
No.
where that would be, but it's like 10.5 hours north of Whitehorse. It's really in the middle of nowhere.
On the Dempster.
It's on the Dempster Highway in the tundra, and and it's pretty cool.
It is.
But you come across quite a few characters up there, and he met a man who's a single father, and he's got a 5-year-old who just finished kindergarten, and he found out that his kid was learning all this really inappropriate stuff at school.
Right.
And he was like, okay, I have to pull him out, but I don't have any family to take care of him while I'm on the road. So while we're on the road, he's going to have to study. But I don't know.
Right.
But the dad, he had no idea where to get the education. He was like, there's nobody out there who aligns with my values, and I just want my kid to learn math, And luckily, George was there and was just having a conversation with him up in the middle of nowhere in the tundra, and said, well, there are a bunch of school pods that have been organizing for the last 2 years because of this. Like, they already saw this coming. A lot of people have been pulling their kids out of public school because of this. And this one just happens to, this school here, he recommended one that was on Goose and Maple already. And he said they're great and they do online studies. So, there are people out there who are really organized and are ready to help. And there is always a way out of all of this craziness. And sometimes we get like really sucked into the craziness and can go down these like negative wormholes. And I don't know, like we're kind of outraged about COVID, and then now it's going more into like the trans activism or trans Maoism, as I like to call it. And so I was like, okay, so we just went from outrage to outrage. That sucks. It sucks to be stuck in that, So with these organizations and these school pods and these all these people who want to create an alternative, it's out there, and we're all ready. So that's the hope and unity that I wanted to bring today.
That's nice. I like that. So I like that story about learning on the road. So he pulled his was it a son or a daughter?
Son, yeah, 5-year-old, yeah.
5-year-old, so kindergarten, and that's a good time to start teaching the proper stuff, not the wrong stuff. Yeah, that's exactly when you need to get it. So he's keeping the boy into the truck, and they're going to teach him remote like that?
Yeah, because, these days you got Starlink and all these cool ways to stay connected, right? So it's possible. And I mean, I met an American family here too, and they have their 3 kids, and they're homeschooling as well for that reason. And they're loving it, and the kids love it too, because they're like, I don't have to sit for 8 hours in school. I get to, if I get my work done in 2 hours, then I can go out and play and discover and do all these things. So homeschooling, if it's possible for your family, like there are teachers out there who are ready to help.
For sure, and thank you for reminding people that there's school pods and pods of people doing this for homeschooling. So this will be road schooling, is what we're doing here, right? The road schooling.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your next domain name, and go and set that up so that you can teach people how to do road schooling.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people doing that. So even these American guests of yours up in the Yukon, they're road schooling as well, because they're not home. They're on the road. So keeping that education going. That's awesome.
Sorry, just one more thing. The teacher on who posted on Goose and Maple, she even said the kids want to keep. I asked her, okay, so it's summertime. Are you going to take a break? And then she was like, no, actually, the kids want to keep going. They don't want to stop. They really enjoy the lesson. So that was interesting. I was like, okay, that's great. So
Yeah, one of the great things about homeschooling, road schooling, whatever we're calling it now, is it's an individualized program for the student. So they get engaged much more in depthly. So they're not waiting for the other kids to finish. And they also don't feel the pressure of finishing while the other kids are finished as well. So it's a much better education because it's tailored to the individual student. And we do that with our boys. So we homeschool both of them. They're 6 and 8, and they are way above the charts of where they're supposed to be compared to their peers. So it definitely works great for us. And I would highly recommend road schooling. That sounds like a lot of fun. Honk, honk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I actually do have some news from Northwest Territory. So I'm going to hang out with you guys and we'll talk about that. We'll see if this affects you or not. So what we did find out is in the Northwest Territories, we have some bison dying. So 15 bison carcasses were found because there seems to be an anthrax outbreak, suspected anthrax outbreak amongst the buffalo out there. Did you guys catch wind of this one yet, or is this your first time hearing about it?
I've heard this before. I've heard this years ago, actually.
Okay, so what do you think's going on now? Because this is a brand new article.
I really don't know, Jason. I'm
Okay.
suspect whenever they say that the game animals are diseased. I think they want to dissuade people from living on the range.
Oh, okay. No, there's been some stuff around that with chickens and goats as well. They're trying to discourage people from being able to self-sustain themselves through hunting and other stuff. So you think that that's what this might be? They might be attacking the hunting population.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
But is it
Well,
also maybe a natural cycle that these animals get called off just by the matter of nature, and then we talk about it in the news like, oh no, it's climate change and whatever?
Possibly, but it hasn't happened in the Yukon. Like the bison hunt is on in the Yukon in a couple of months, I think.
it does look like they're trying to make it climate change related because they're saying it minimizes the anthrax spores in the soil. So I'm sure they're going to find a way to make this Trump's fault, and it's going to be climate change, right? Yeah, absolutely. Trump is killing the buffalo. That should be, or the bison. That should be the headline here. My goodness. Okay, well, that's sad that these buffalo are having problems. Whether the government's assisting, whether it's nature, we don't really know. It's just suspected at this point. But maybe, Paula, what we'll do is we'll try and keep an eye on this one and have an update for this next week as well. And then we can head over to Nunavut because they're celebrating Nunavut Day. So Nunavut Day celebrations are coming to communities across the territories. So I believe this is July 9th. So there'll be a new holiday which falls on July 9th of each year. So they'll be celebrating the Nunavut Act, which was passed, I guess, July 9th. Kind of like an independence for them as well, because this is when their territory became a territory. Do you know anybody in Nunavut?
I know some people that have moved there. I know people that have lived there. One was
Cool.
a nurse.
So good people there?
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's
good, hardy, strong people.
very
Go ahead.
high vaccination rate. Very high vaccination rate.
Okay, so do you think that was because they're just compliant, or they were scared, or they just there's only like 40,000 people, and it didn't take long to do that? Like, what do you think the high vaccination rate?
They could have laid the propaganda on a little bit better there
Mm-hmm.
because of the remoteness.
Right, and you've probably scared people a lot, really good there too,
That's
and
right.
less able to talk to each other and have communities, maybe.
Yeah. Of the three territories, Yukon has the lowest vaccination rate. I know that.
Okay, and why do you think that is? So now we can go back to the Yukon flag. There we go. So why do you think you like that flag, did you? So why do you think Yukon has a lower vaccination rate? Are you guys just more independent, or you just
More
didn't want to
contact.
bother getting it?
There's less separating us. And
Right,
like
'cause most of you are, sorry,
like
most
in
of
a-
you are in the one town, right? Or one city?
Yeah. Like you said, it's actually 80%, almost 80% live in Whitehorse. Population updated, I just saw 34,500 and 43,000 in the territory.
Wow, okay. And are they doing anything with like 15-minute cities there? Like Whitehorse, how big is it? It's 30,000 people, you said?
34,005.
34.
It's a big area. It's got a huge city limit area. And even outside the city limits, people still commute.
Right. Okay, but have you had any talk about 15-minute cities with Whitehorse at all?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
really?
we're signed up. Yeah.
Okay, maybe expand on that a little bit. We only have a couple minutes left, but I'm curious. So, what are they going to do there? Is it one city that's 15 minutes, or are they going to make areas?
It's hard to say. I'm watching all the time for what they're planning.
Mhm.
There's a lot of building goes on in Whitehorse, a lot of building. They talk about getting people more into the city and less in the suburbs. And one way they're doing that is outrageous fuel prices.
Wow. Okay.
Commuting is getting less practical all the time.
Right. So they want people to not drive. They're going to do that through forcing the price of the cars. And are they doing that with insurance as well? Do you have a territorial insurance or private insurance up there?
I think we
Is
have
it public or private?
We have both.
You have both?
It's quite high. It's quite high.
Yeah, I can imagine if they start playing with those numbers and the gasoline prices, and then also the cost of vehicles in general are really high right now as well for repair. That will push a lot of people off of owning vehicles.
And if you get your vehicle into a shop for repair, you got to book way in advance.
Wow. Well, I wonder if that's by design. Maybe you're onto something there.
Maybe, but I don't see it. I don't know. I don't see it happening.
Well,
You're still young. Look, this is what I love about the two of you. You're young and you haven't been around the block quite enough yet. And
I'm
Dan
not
has been through. I've heard a couple things that make me say, "Oh, she'll learn soon." You'll get there. You'll get there. Yeah, but I still like that optimism. So keep that going. I do like that part of it as well. We need that youth optimism.
Yeah.
Now, listen, Melissa, did you catch my shows this week? I had Josh Alexander on Monday, and he's a student advocate. Yeah, so he's doing a lot of work around that. Do you know if Yukon has anybody doing that? Are the youth standing up against some of this indoctrination and gender stuff? Or is it kind of quiet out there?
I don't know. Have you? I haven't.
I think that answers my question, though. I think that answers my question. You would know. So that's kind of the point. So, yeah, if there was somebody doing it.
I know there's somebody in our group, and they have a daughter that's, I think, about 14, and she's very outspoken about the woke agenda.
Pro or against?
Oh, totally against.
Oh,
even during the masking period, which only ended in March of 2022 for us, she wouldn't mask.
Oh, wow. Good
and
girl.
Just,
that's a good girl.
Here, Jason, I don't know if you're aware of this. We're the only jurisdiction in Canada that had its own dedicated COVID police. They were called
What?
CMAC.
You have COVID police?
Yes.
What do these guys do?
They were going around all the stores and handing out mask tickets, $575.
Oh, wow. If you put that ticket over your mouth, would that count? And then you can get rid of the ticket? Like, my goodness, that's a lot of money, and that's ridiculous. Do you know if the courts are challenging that? If anybody's challenging that? Because here in
I know a
Alberta,
couple members that challenged it and they lost.
They
I know
lost.
they're dropping it or they're forgetting it, because I have a friend who I shouldn't be talking about it because he said, I don't know, he's on the run a little bit.
What's his social insurance number?
Yeah, because he has a PO box, they're not able to actually deliver the ticket to him personally.
Okay.
That's what, they have to do that, and he's just been avoiding them for the last 2 years, and because he really made a stink about it, I think at the grocery store or something, and he was like, no, I'm not gonna wear a stupid mask. But I think that they're just eventually gonna drop it. I mean, so much administration, it's all backed up. It's just not worth their time. I don't
Well, Nova Scotia let us know that Nova Scotia let us know that they just renewed their mandates for 4 years. So they're going to continue all the way to 2020. What did he say? Yeah. I'm looking at the dates now. Yeah, 7. So 2027.
Mask mandates, Jason, or
vaccine.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah, vaccine in the healthcare system.
Oh, for the healthcare system, yeah. I can imagine BC the same.
Yeah, BC probably. So we'll be bookend by highly vaccinated doctors and nurses. I don't know if that's a good thing. I guess we'll find out. But thank you all for the update.
Yeah,
there are. So stay tuned, Melissa. There's a lot of health stuff coming up on this channel. We have Dr. Peter McCullough coming on, so he'll be on the 28th, and he'll be talking all about vaccine injury and what can be done to kind of mitigate some of it and take some proactive steps at this stage if you did get it, and some of the things you can do to help yourself. But we'll be getting into that in a couple of weeks, and we'll have a lot of information on that.
Good.
Awesome. Great. So thank thank you both very much, and we'll catch you again next week. And maybe, Alyssa, you can give us a hand and collect a little bit of news from the territories, and we'll do this. We'll turn this into our coast to coast thing. Okay.
He's a great researcher.
Okay.
Thank you both very much.
Jason.
And that's
Bye,
the end
everybody.
of the Unity. Bye. Sweet. So we got the Yukon, and there's our Canadian flag. Thank you very much, flag lady. You won. You won. That's a Canadian flag, because now we can wrap up for all of Canada. So from Nova Scotia all the way to Yukon to Northwest Territories all the way to Nunavut, they're losing some bison, right? Did you know that, anyone? Were you in my chat and you said, listen, I want to know what's going on with those bison? Well, we found out they suspected some anthrax, about 15 corpses, and that's not so fun, but it is what it is, and that's a little bit of news. And then Nunavut celebrating Nunavut Day, so July 9th. Did you know that one either? Here you go. So they got Canada Day, and then a week and a day later, they get to celebrate Nunavut Day. So that's cool. So what we got to hear from Melissa is they're working at coming together, bringing some news to us for next week, which is great. But she's also a little entrepreneur, and she likes to help and create solutions for things. So I love catching up with both of them. So I get to hear what she's doing with her Jobless Jobs, I think it was called, and her another initiative, something bowl. I'm so bad with names. I got to start writing some of this stuff down. But what we'll do is we'll put that information into the chat and get it to you. Well, how did you like that, Canada? We had some music released to us as well today, and you guys loved it. You just went nuts. And by the way, I'm going to play that one song that you did like again just before the end here, because you guys loved it so much. And it was a very active chat. It was very helpful to see so many new faces in there, lots of Facebook people. So thank you very much for everybody who's doing the shares out there. Let's go ahead and go through the whole comment thing. So go put your comments into YouTube, into Getter, into Rumble, wherever you're watching this. Put some comments in here. I'll try and get that thing up here. I think, oh yeah, we don't have those overlays in this one. Okay, but also make sure you like and subscribe so I can see that the subscribe numbers are there. There you go. Clever. Yeah, we can do that. And we're live streaming on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Getter. So we're on 8 different platforms. So share it with your friends. And if they're lefties, share it with them as well, because we do have a lot of good information, and it will help. And as we heard from, where was it? Ontario. So it was Ashley who met with some of her lefty friends and had a conversation because of Chris Erickson's Twitter space. She was comfortable and she kind of motivated herself to go ahead and do that. That's some great unity. So thank you very much, Ashley from Ontario, for that one. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and do all that lovely things, because we have a lot of these videos coming out. We have a lot of interviews, and I got a secret to tell you. There's so many interviews lined up. We're going to start doubling up on the days, because there's so many good people to bring to you. So you might be getting a morning show plus 2 interviews on some days. I don't know when I'm going to sleep, but I got to bring these people to you. Like it, clip it. Okay, so we had the Chief Nerd, which is a really large Twitter account. What he did was he clipped a piece of the interview with Carrie. Sorry, I don't want to do that again. With Carrie. And she's the one that's filing the lawsuit out of Alberta, $10.5 million against the government and the health services, nurses, and CBC. So what he did was he clipped a piece of that, and it went viral. So thank you very much to the Chief Nerd for doing that for us. And also thank you very much to Dr. Peter McCullough for retweeting us. That also went viral. That did about 250,000 views. So thank you very, very much for that. So if you like it, clip it. And it works great. And then also join our Discord server. So if you want to get involved in some of the work that we're doing, this is where you go. You can go and get an invite from our chat. Usually someone will put it in there. Rosario, someone like that might put it in there. But you can also go find us on Discord and request one, and I'll approve it. Don't you worry. But we're putting a lot of good information in there. And of course, Bearing Witness, my book, you saw it on here. That was so impressive. Again, Ashley, I think you're going to be coming on more often than you think, because you plugged my book, and that was wicked to see. That is the first copy I've physically seen other than my proofs. So I'm very pleased that she was one of the first to order it. And then Donald also got the digital one. So we'll get some reviews out of them. And and if you don't know what the book is about, it's about bearing witness, the legal, let me get the right title for you. The Ethical, Legal, and Practical Guide to Recording and Sharing History. The purpose of this book is to teach you how to use your phone and use your mind and use your head and use your ears to record some history, and the proper way to do it so that you don't become part of the story and your information, what you gather, can be used in other proceedings like court. It teaches you how to be in court, how to prepare yourself, how to work with the system. And it's all about making sure that we can become competent witnesses and credible witnesses, because those are the toughest kinds when you're dealing with them in court. Credible witnesses, those are the toughest kind to discredit. So the idea here is the more witnesses, the more justice we'll end up getting. So go ahead and check it out on Amazon. The link was in the chat, but you can also search for Jason Levine, and it's Bearing Witness. You'll find it. It's available all over the world. So go ahead and get it in digital, paperback, or hardcover. So thank you all very much. This was a great episode. I hope you like the flags. I saw a lot of people commenting on the flags. There you go, right there. John saying, love the flags. I thought that would be a great way to help us remember where we are and recognize, Canada's got all these provinces and they have their own identity as well. So let's see the flags and let's bring it together. So I'm really glad that you like that. So as I promised, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that song one more time so that Ellen can lose it and rock on like crazy. And John is saying the Yellowhead Yacht Club lives large. Thank you, Jace, Padge, Ali, and Azario for keeping it real. Yeah, thank you very much, John. I do appreciate that. So I'll play that song for you, and then we'll show you the new closing video, and then we'll have to call it a night. But first, this is really for Ellen. I know you loved it, Ellen. So here you go. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Let's give him some love on Twitter. Go ahead and find this tweet and make sure that you let him know that we love him. Zahena, you are the man. Thank you. Thank you. Charlie C, better second listen. Yeah, it sounds great, doesn't it? It sounds great. Oh yeah, baby, I'm digging the riff. Just some more bass and more tongue. We'll pass that on. I think Zahedna's watching this. So there you go, Canada. Another great episode, and maybe next week we might see Greg Arcade or something. We'd love to have music on this show, and Manitoba has lots of it. So thank you all very much for joining me. It was a very fun episode. I'm really, really glad that we were able to roll with the punches. We had somebody that was set up to go, Morgan, and then she had a last minute thing, but she passed that puck on to Paul, who scored like a champ. So thank you all very much for joining us, and have yourself a wonderful evening. And I love you all, and God bless. Oops, that's the wrong exit song, folks. I'm going to get the right one. I was watching that and I'm wondering, where's my exit? Here you go. Love you all again, and God bless.